6 months.
How do we are here? You are there with our life back. Sick.
Good evening. How are you?
BBC Radio Manchester.
It is indeed Saturday night, but, you know, by now you've probably worked that out for yourself. There's only 2 hours of it left. 3 hours of this palaver, but 2 hours of Saturday. We do an hour of Sunday as well. We work over 2 days. It's no wonder we're tired. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us? That's good. You're welcome to do so. And as I say, you can talk about anything. And tonight we have Ollie taking your calls, Jane working the buttons, Talat throwing his weight around, and me talking rubbish. That's what we've got for you until 1 o'clock in the morning. The number to join us, and you can only take part by telephone. You can listen wherever you like. There's a variety of ways in which to do so. But you can only take part by phoning 0800 218 2255. So if somebody, including me, says something that you think, oh, then phone up, because sending us an email or a text or anything like won't even get seen. So 0800 218 2255. And it's been one of the more interesting weeks in so many ways, isn't it? The cops have been told by the Home Secretary from now on they must investigate every crime they can. Now that's the interesting bit, they can. Now, if that's not a PR stunt by the government, I'm not altogether sure what is. I mean, presuming that it's already the obligation of the cops to investigate every crime that they can. It's just they can't do enough of them. And apparently, maybe the other policy will help, but apparently laughing can make you live longer. You best turn off now, there's no fun to be had here. Run for it whilst you still can. And the besooted football snogger, you know, the Spanish fella, yeah, he's soon for the chop, whatever his protestations. But why is nobody talking about him grabbing his todger when his team scored? I mean, let's be honest. Whatever else he is, he's not much more than a male slapper, is he? And Twister's changed its name to X. So every time anybody says X now, they have to say formerly known as Twitter, which is the very essence of pointlessness. Call it X, nobody knows what you're on about. Who gives a stuff? And Mohammed Al-Fayed has died. He's probably sitting there as we speak, basking in the warmth of a huge fire, telling anyone who'll listen that MI5 murdered him. And, despite a week of looking, they still haven't found the Loch Ness Monster. But, as I said last week, they've sold thousands of beds in B&Bs all around the lake, or the loch, so that's fine. That's a result. It's done its job. Yesterday, there was a photograph released wondering if it was indeed the monster. And it may well might be, I don't know. But if the Loch Ness Monster is a 2 wheelie bin bags being dragged along by a boat, or something else, then maybe it is. And then in America, another white American has asserted his supposed right to bear arms by shooting to death 3 black people. Some rights are just wrong. Now look, I am not keen on smoothies. They're not for me. I know that they're like ice cream, but very soft ice cream. But the stuff, they've only got good stuff in them, like fruit. And that's not ice cream. Ice cream's supposed to be horrid in terms of its value to your body. It just tastes good. Anyway, I don't like smoothies. I don't even like the temporary moustache that you get. You know, yellow, green, or whatever the slime is that you're drinking. But Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, he must really like them because he's just made Grant Shapps the Defence Minister. Is that what our fighters need? To fight for them? A rather chatty and presentable smoothie. Yeah, it might work. And great news. Late news, but great news. In 1666, the Great Fire of London reduced much of the capital to ashes. That's not good news, that's bad news. Lots of people losing their homes in a big fire. We know all about that knocking on. But the Great Fire of London, 1666, historians are now convinced, they've been studying it, it's important, are now convinced that a man called Thomas Dagger raised the alarm. Not raise the fire, raise the alarm. So they're getting closer. It's worth knowing, but what we really want to know is who lit it. I don't think Arthur Brown was alive at the... Because it is so odd a song. I told my wife today, I said, I'm going to play Arthur Brown on Fire to start the programme. And she said, I went to see him in Letchworth Town Hall just after that record came out. And he did it all on stage, apparently. I never saw him, so I don't know. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us, you can. Pick up your phone, have your say. You may talk about absolutely anything. Let's get going. How do George?
Hello, Alan. What I'd like to speak about, it's only a short one, is about this broadband. I've had letters saying they're going to change, and it's all computerised, the telly, and I'm 89, I don't understand how to do computers and that. So I think it's all wrong for old people, and you've got to get this, and to pay for broadband, it costs a lot of money, and some poor people are struggling now without paying that. I'm quite happy with what I've got.
Are you saying that you've received a letter telling you that they're going to change your phone so that it comes over the broadband rather than just a normal phone line? Is that what your letter said?
Yeah, that's what they want.
Yeah.
They're thinking of doing it, but it won't be straight away.
No, it's not going to be for a while, but they are going to do it. But it ought not to change your position. First of all, you won't have to pay any extra. You'll still, your phone, instead of having it plugged into the hole in the wall as it is presently, it'll be plugged into a slightly different plug in that wall. And if your phone is not one of those that's got the wheel on it, the dial on it, if it's a comparatively modern phone, it'll still work. It'll be just the same, the same number and everything else. So it won't be, operationally, it won't be much of a change.
Yeah, but getting pictures on a telly, will it be any bother with that, Alan?
Well, the telly shouldn't be affected at all.
No.
So we don't. I mean, we don't know. It wouldn't be the first time they've lied to the teeth to us. But what they're saying is that it's just going to the lines that bring the signal to your house will be different.
I see.
But it'll just be the same when it gets to yours.
I see.
So it shouldn't.
It'd be quite a while, Alan.
It's going to take years for it to get all around the country, and it depends where they start.
I don't think I'll be there here then.
Oh, don't be like that. Hey, but even if it is, honestly, it won't make much difference to you.
Well, I'm quite happy. It can be as long as it wants.
Yeah.
Give me plenty of time to watch the telly.
Well, it'll still be the same. The telly will still be the same. The telly won't alter at all. You can... Go on.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, thanks very much, Alan, for everything.
It's all right. Have a good night, mate. 0800 218 2255. There is a change coming. They're digitalising it, and there will be issues. There always are when they change things, aren't there? But it's going to be the overwhelming majority of people who currently just have a telephone, a landline. Instead of a landline, it'll still be a landline in effect. It'll just be a better one. And you'll have a phone that operates down that wire instead of down another wire. So they'll come along and they'll change the wire that goes from the telegraph pole or wherever to your house. That'll be different, unless you've already got broadband, in which case it'll be the same. And that will be a better wire than you've got now. So your telephone, it is said, will be much clearer than it is presently. There will be one or two phones, very old-fashioned ones, that won't work on that. So people that have gone out and bought, no, I don't mean replicas, but the old Bakelite phone, the proper one. You've gone out and bought one of those for the show, then you're screwed. Hard luck. It's a cruel world. But even some of those have been adjusted to make them work. So, but worry not. Honestly, it's not for ages, and it's not going to be a big change. How do Sean?
Hello, Alan. How you doing, mate?
I'm awfully well, thank you.
So basically, so some of the news, next week people are returning to school, yeah? All the people go back to school. So basically, they said that most schools will be shutting because of this concrete situation. Like, I think that's rubbish because like people want to go back to school now. The holidays are over, and people want to get away from the parents because they've had enough of the parents.
I believe that feeling might be mutual, Sean.
Well, my school's staying open because mine's an autistic school, so mine's special. So mine gets stay open for forever because mine's special. So mine doesn't have to shut. So I'm happy with that.
Well, it'll have to shut, or parts of it may have to shut, depending on how much, if any, of this modern concrete's been used. This concrete that's now proving to be rather risky. And special school or not, your teachers and the governors of your school are not going to want the roof to fall in on you.
No. Well, I got a building called Pole 16, so there's no concrete near there, so it should be safe.
Well, I mean, obviously I don't know the school, so I can't say, but one would hope so. But be assured that your teachers and your head teacher and the like are not going to let you go to any part of the school where it might be dangerous, because that would just be horrible.
Yeah. I heard you talking about start the show about this about the FA Dogger still the Spanish FA that he's still not resigned. He's still in the job.
I know he's still in the job. He's not going to survive forever, though, is he? Someone's going to sack him.
He needs to resign soon because otherwise the players won't want to play.
Yeah, but if the players don't play and the international body, FIFA, I think it is, have said, I think they've said he really ought to go, then the Spanish authorities are going to have no choice. They're going to have to sack him. Which means
they have to arrest him, or the police.
Well, the police won't have to arrest him unless they think a crime's been committed, and maybe it has, maybe it hasn't, I don't know. But they'll just sack him, and he'll probably get a big wodge of compensation as a result.
But do you think that the girl wanted to kiss him because his breath probably smelled like coffee and disgusting?
Well, I've no idea. I've never been that close to him. The woman involved, the player involved, said it wasn't. It wasn't a voluntary thing. She didn't agree to it. So we have to take her word for it. And I suspect it wasn't. Well, he didn't taste very nice, so I'm grumbling. I think she just feels offended by the whole thing. But good to hear from you, Sean. Have a good night. I'll do Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Hi.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, sir. I'm just, my name is Johnson, as mentioned. I live in Blakely, Manchester.
Be very careful about giving out details about your identity, Johnson, because we don't know what will follow on. But if providing, I have to be wary of what you're now going to say, but do carry on. It's your life.
Yeah, thank you for that anyway. To be sincere, I understand your point, and I bear consequences of what I do because I am an adult. So thank you for that. Anyway, it's regarding the attitude, the nefarious attitude of the social services, especially the Kafkas. I think you know who the Kafkas are.
I do, yes.
Yeah. I just don't understand in the way, especially in Manchester, the functions in a way that embraces shame and against the upliftment to mankind, which is contrary to the upliftment to mankind. There is a case of one case in the past which I was involved in. It was a case of
I've got to stop you again. I'm sorry. Now you've said there's a case and you've said you were involved in it. Kafkas is basically dealing with children and family. You've already given us your name, so it's very difficult to carry on now without somebody deducing which child it is you're talking about, and I can't let you do that. So, Johnson, I'm very sorry. I've got to stop you and say good night. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry, but I can't risk it. I can't risk somebody listening to the programme being able to identify the child from what you've just said, which is one of the reasons we never, or we do our best not to use names. So I'm sorry, we can't let you carry on. The risks are too great. And I understand what you say, you're an adult and you can take your own risks, but of course CAFCAS deals with children and they're not adults and they have no say in the matter, and they're not here, even if they had a say, they're not here to be able to voice it. So I'm sorry, for child protection rules, we can't let you carry on. Those are the BBC rules, but quite frankly, it's my rule as well. How do Russell?
Oh, hi, Alan. Wow, serious issues, you know. Just a snippet before I say what I want to say, Alan, if you don't mind. You're talking about the RAF last week and about the bombers and everything. I remember back in the 70s, my dad used to do the boards all over the country. He took me to Lincoln, and I remember at the time there was 2 Lancaster bombers in Britain. One was in Blackpool, funny enough, in Blackpool Airport, and the other one was at Guardgate and Scampton. I remember my dad taking me there. We looked at the bomber and Guy Gibson's dog. I won't say the name. And in them days, you know, you could just walk in. There was no fences. It was funny times. But I know there's 2 or 3 bombers in the country at the moment. I know one can't fly. You think that's the one in East Kirby. You can go on it and just have a ride on the tarmac. But you don't see gate guards now on the airfields. They were prevalent in the 70s.
Well,
Every airfield had a gate guard, you know.
When you say a gate guard, are you referring to the aircraft at the gates?
The aircraft, was called a gate guard.
Yeah,
that's what it was called, yeah.
When you go through Queen's Ferry...
Oh, yes, Sealand, is it?
Yeah. RAF Sealand have still got a gate guard. They've got they've still got a bomber, not the old-fashioned one, more modern, not the latest model. It's a long way away, so and I'm driving, so I can't work out what it is. I really ought to take a detour and have a look.
Good look,
But they've still got one, and when I was a kid in Warrington, we had Padgate, which was the recruitment and disembarkation point for much of the RAF, and they had a Spitfire on the front, but that's not there anymore because it's a housing estate.
Brilliant. They're all too valuable now, aren't they? Why I'm ringing is, Alan, I've spoken to you twice, nothing serious, about your dad and Arnhem and a little opinion, you know. Well, this person rang up not long after me. I think his name was Ian. And I found he was impertinent to you, and the guy doesn't know me, and he had to go at me for reading about war history. I mean, I'm 63. I've been all over Europe visiting. I've been on pilgrimages. You name it, Alan. I've met veterans. You know, I was brought up on war in the 70s by me dad. So, you know, I generally I'm not somebody Johnny come lately who's just got into this. And he was having a go at me. Then he aimed it at you. And I thought, I don't know how, he asked you. It's something a child would ask an adult. Have you killed somebody? As a soul, have you shot somebody? I thought he was absolutely awful. He was going on about his granddad. I'd like to know who his granddad was. Was only concerned about his comrades who all got killed. And he got his medals, and half an hour later he threw them away. Well, I don't believe that, because what did his mother and father think? Did they? I don't believe that for a minute. And he was going on about it. His granddad was telling them about the war and what it was like. And in my experience, veterans never spoke about it. Very rarely. It's only recently they come.
Well, quite a few did. Quite a few.
Yeah.
You know, human beings are all different, and as for somebody having a go at me, well, quite frankly, that's why I'm here. So I don't care. My skin is thicker than my head.
But I do, Alan, and I thought he was awful to you. I mean,
well, that doesn't matter. I get paid.
Your dad was at Arnhem, which to me is the tops.
Well, whatever my dad did doesn't really make any difference about who I am.
Army. Asking you if you shot somebody.
But Russell, he's entitled to ask.
Well,
he's entitled.
I take exception to him because he doesn't know me. I mean, I listen to all kinds on your station.
Well, Russell, when people come on here, the reason we keep it to first names is so that people can challenge even in a misbehaviour way, an indelicate way, can challenge what others have said. It's called free speech, and what happens with free speech is you have to be prepared to hear somebody saying something you don't like, even if it's about you.
I mean, what he was basically saying is if you haven't gone to war and killed somebody, you're not allowed to study history. So, I mean, that's his. I mean, I know that's his. Russell, he's entitled to that point of view, however right or wrong you think he is. Course, he's entitled to his point of view, and at the risk of sounding like a patronising idiot, if those men and women who died in the consecutive wars died for anything, it was freedom, and freedom means allowing people to do things you don't like. I don't believe the medal story though. That I've never. So he went to a service. He got the medals, and his grandfather walked and threw them out. That's me arse. I'm sorry, Alan. You know that's. I mean, and it's disrespectful to people who died. First of all,
you don't know whether it's true or not. You don't believe it, and that is a position you're entitled to.
Yeah.
And he's entitled to say it, be it true or not. Free speech, entitled to tell the truth or a lie.
When you were in Liverpool, did you ever see Derning Road? Did you ever hear the story of Derning Road?
No.
No, well, I'll tell you about Derning Road. It's very near to Sefton General. It's about 2 miles, very near Edge Hill Station. And I think it was covered up. It was November 1940. And it was a technical college on Derning Road. Churchill said it was the worst wartime disaster. This has been buried, this story of the war. Anyway, what happened was they dropped parachute mines, and all the people went into the cellar of this technical school. The parachute mine hit the top of the building. The boilers burst, and they reckon there's still people buried in the rubble. He couldn't get them out. Now, they say that Derning Road, I mean, I've spoken to Roger Phillips countless times about this, so I'm not making this up. Alan,
no, I'm reading about it now.
Yeah, anyway, what happened is Churchill said it was the worst disaster. Now, if you go up there now, there's a little garden for them, and there's a plinth with a message from the Queen Mother, going back to about 1992, I think it is. But that's all there is. Now, I compare it to Bethnal Green. Bethnal Green was more of an accident. People heard rockets going off in London. I think it was 43. And they fell down the stairs. Well, Bethnal Green got lottery money. They've got a big monument outside the tube station. They've got the names of all the people who died. Derning Road, which was worst, doesn't get a mention. Even the church is gone. I mean, the local vicar came on the radio after me a couple of years ago. The church is gone. There is a website, and the stories are heartbreaking. The stories about a woman took her children down there, and she had to go out for something in an emergency, and all the children lost her. Oh, it's a terrible thing. But yeah, they're down there. I go up when I can, Alan, and put something down in the garden. But Derning Road, unfortunately, is one of them incidences which is sort of beginning to be forgotten. Local people have kept the memory alive, but that terrible thing, absolutely terrible.
Well, according to this, there is a memorial, and it's got 150 names on it. Each of these.
Oh, where is this, Alan? Does it say?
Well, this is a story from the Imperial War Museum in 2017.
Yes.
And it says the Derning Road air raid shelter bombing. Previously, the plaque with the names on was at San Cyprian, the Christ Church on Edge Hill. And I presume, and I'm only presuming...
That's probably closed now.
I'm presuming that it's in the Imperial War Museum North, which would be the right place for it, one imagines.
I might ask somebody to chase this up, because I remember talking to Roger Phillips, and he went and had a look. He didn't know anything about it, really. He didn't know about the memorial. This little garden, though, it's It's the Durning Road is on the corner by Edge Lane Station, and you just walk up on that side towards Edge Hill, and there's a little garage on your left. You go down there's a little garden. It's a nice little garden. It was overgrown when I was last there, but it's so sad to think that. I'd like to know who these people were. I'd like to see their photographs, their stories.
I understand that you would, and many historians would as well, but most people, quite frankly, now have nobody. There's nobody alive who was in there, so it's not any more history now than the people that fell at Agincourt, you know? I mean, it's just, we move on. But
you're
that's
looking
the nature
forward
of
to
humans.
Michael Caine's film,
The
Great Escaper. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's a new film. Remember the veteran who went, a couple of years ago, he got out the nursing home, and he went to the commemoration.
Yeah,
Well, this film is called The Great Escaper. It's with Michael Caine. He plays the veteran, and the late Glenda Jackson. And I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we shall see. Good on you, Russell.
Yeah.
I'll do Ted.
All right, Colin. Just to say, the other day I seen a squirrel, a grey squirrel, but it had bits of red in it. But anyway, this grey squirrel with a bit of red in it. You know, like humans plant seeds. I think we learned that from the squirrels, because that's what they do. They took up the turf, put its head down, put the seeds in the ground, and then passes it down.
Right. Well, we might have done. We've been doing it. We've been doing it for a very, very, very long time, just after the Stone Age, I believe. But maybe we learnt it from the squirrels then. Who knows?
But do you think that, Alan? Do you think like squirrels are mixing like reds and greys there? Yeah.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, I don't. And neither the scientists. They're not mixing. It's just an aberration, like I presume humans. We have humans different coloured hair. I suppose squirrels are the same, but I don't really know. But thank you. How do Shafik?
I'm okay, Alan, yeah. Who holds the Bible? We Christian hold the Bible last 2000 years, okay? And we Great Britain, Parliament and King Queen hold our country, okay? And I Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth...
You do know the Queen's dead, don't you?
Yeah, Queen passed away. And King Charles III hold the Great Britain and Parliament hold the Great Britain. I'm not lying. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II not guilty, and the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, not guilty. And
of what? What are you saying they're not guilty of?
About the Diana. Diana not guilty. Guilty the other person.
Right.
When I know, the 1998 by the angel, God angel said to me, even Prince William and Prince Harry witness.
Shafik, good night, Shafik. Get the angel to ring me. I don't take third-party stories. So if the angel wants to ring, the number's 0800 218 2255. It's available also to the devil. We are the BBC. We do have to maintain balance as best we can. So if the devil wishes to ring, then do so as well, as long as you're not wearing Prada, because there's some levels to which I will not stoop. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you may. You can say anything you like. You can talk about anything you like, as long as you don't go breaking my heart. It was going to be, but there you are. 0800 218 2255. How do Katherine?
Hello, Alan. I'm just responding to the gentleman who's been on regarding the bombing in Durning Road of the Technical College.
Okay.
Okay, well, that night my grandma was in the pub facing with her grandfather, with her father having a drink, and he said, Jess, are you coming down to the air raid shelter with me tonight? And she said, Dad, tonight I'm going to see my friends for a few drinks. If I make it back in time, I will.
Crikey.
But what she didn't do was make it back in time, so she went to another air raid shelter, which meant her dad there was no survivors. He got scalded to death. Everyone in there did. The boilers burst and scalded everyone to death. So she didn't make it back. But if she had done, none of us would have been here. But the strange thing about it is I've now ended up living in a bungalow next to the memorial.
Wow. So you have to...
Yeah, so...
I mean, that's good and bad, isn't it? Because you...
Well, Old College Place is where we live, and it's where the bomb was dropped.
So, how do you cope with that? Because you've got to think, I mean, we all have memories, and many of us have some sad memories, inevitably, but every time you walk past that, you're reminded, aren't you?
I'm a bit annoyed that there hasn't been a bit more attention given to the garden and the memorial itself. The what you said was originally up in St Cyprian's, which is now shut down as a church. None of the family members were informed what happened to that plaque with every name on it. You know, none of us know where it is.
I mean, that's terrible in a way, but of course, what those who are charged with moving it, and that may not be a good thing, but those that are, who are charged with moving it, they don't know where the descendants of all the names on that plaque are. They don't have any way of approaching them directly.
In Liverpool, all he had to do was put a piece in the Echo, and plenty of people would have come forward.
Well,
because it's such a small, it's like a city, but it's like a village.
Yeah.
So it was kept alive in our family because it was my great-grandfather and my mother's grandfather. So my grandmother always used to tell me the story of the night where she was sitting with her dad having half a bitter, and he asked her to come over to the air raid shelter, and she said she was going to meet her friends, but if she could get back in time, she would. She didn't get back in time. And all that was left in his pocket was, you know, the 2 old pennies.
Yeah.
But because they'd been scalded to death, the 2 old pennies were soldered together.
Crikey. Or at least they'd melted into each other.
Yes. Good
Lord. That's a hell of a story, Catherine.
Yeah, so the gentleman, there must be much more. Apparently, a coachload of people turn up every so often to the memorial, but I was going to go and put flowers by it. I think it's in a terrible state. It's just being left to be a bit rotten ruin. And it's not because none of the family members would do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this many times before, and that is that memorials, in the end, are almost hostage to fortune, because the further away it moves historically, the longer ago it was, the less respect is offered to it by the people who are still around. And that's absolutely dreadful in many ways, but inevitable. You know,
it's when you have to chase the kids away who are doing YouTube videos and they're jumping on and off the memorial. It's just to show a bit of respect. I said, do you realise what that stands for?
But
can you read?
I know what you're saying, but that's the problem, isn't it? And there are people who, for whatever reasons they have, are disregarding of such things and even vandalise them, and that's quite uncomfortable for people. And having memorials gives these not very nice people the opportunity to go and cause pain to others anonymously, which some people enjoy doing, which is awful.
Yes. I just thought, I'm with my mum, and I just thought where we've ended up living right next to the memorial is uncanny.
Yeah, that is
but
strange.
I didn't know there was bodies buried in the rubble. So we're now on a bungalow on top of that rubble.
Wow. Well, There's a lovely story which I'm pinching from the Echo, that famous newspaper of Liverpool, and it says this at the end of the story. Following the publication of this account of bombing of Durning Road shelter, the Post and Echo has learned of a birth of a baby in the midst of the rescue operation. It's understood the baby's mother perished in the disaster, but thought that the child had survived. And the Echo at the time was attempting to make contact with that mother, with that child, if that child was around Liverpool. Yeah, but that's going back. That's going back 13 years to the 70th anniversary of the bomb, of that particular incident. So the Echo were doing what local newspapers, good local newspapers, do everywhere, and try and make contact with people.
Alan, it was the largest loss of life to a bomb.
Yeah, it was the largest single event in the largest life lost in the whole of the Liverpool Blitz.
No, in all of the UK.
Well, that's not what I'm reading here, but that may be so. It's certainly saying here that it was the worst in the Liverpool Blitz, and it may have been the worst in the country. I don't know.
We got told it was the worst in the country, to be honest with you.
Well, and you may be right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, I'm just reading the Echo article from the 70th anniversary right now, and it doesn't say that, but that doesn't mean it's not true. I'm not suggesting you're wrong.
Yeah, my great grandfather's name's on that plaque. We went into the church to see it, but then the church got shut down, and we weren't told where it went.
Well,
or anything.
If you're interested in finding out, you need to get in touch with the Imperial War Museum, either in London, because they've got records of it, because I read a piece from their record of it just a few moments ago, and also if you get in touch with the Imperial War Museum North, which is in Trafford, just across the river, in fact.
I think the northern one might have a bit more info.
Well, they might. I mean, what I remember of the IWM is that it's rather more specific about things, but certainly if you ask them, they will know or will be able to post you in the direction of someone who will know. But certainly the Imperial War Museum have knowledge of it, and they may well even know where the plaque went. But good to hear from you, Catherine. Thank you very much indeed. Have a good night.
Okay.
0800 218 2255. See, history never stops happening, does it? How do Roy?
All right, Alan, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
The poor woman with that anniversary thing on that there, mate, on me. I was just listening to that, It's awful, lad, isn't it?
In a way, yeah.
Yeah. Are you staying on the radio, mate, or are you leaving? Because I was a bit worried about that, mate. I want you to stay on the radio. I listen to you last time, mate.
I'm leaving sometime this year, so before Christmas anyway.
Yeah. Oh, bloody hell, mate. I wanted you to stay, like, you know what I mean?
Well, indeed. That's good, but unfortunately it's not going to happen. I'm leaving sometime this year. I don't yet know when.
You don't yet know when? I'm going to miss you on the radio, mate, you know what I mean? Oh yeah? I want to talk about my walks. We're still walking in for miles, mate. So I might be abusing the bike soon, mate, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, on the bikes. I'm still travelling on the buses, mate, yeah, you know what I mean, yeah? To go on the big long walks. Yeah, I want to mention Peter.
Well, don't mention any names, because we don't do names on this programme. But
don't you know? Oh, I'm gutted you're leaving me. I'm sorry, you know what I mean?
It's all right. Sorry about that. It comes to the end. Everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and we're heading towards the end. But good to hear from you, Roy. How do Ray?
Hi, Alan. I'd like to talk about are men more insecure than women? Now, why I talk about this is because it's like all comes down to like relationships, and I think, you know, men on the whole, they get paranoid when their girlfriends like go out to a nightclub with like male friends and all that. So what do you think about that?
I think it's too all-consuming to be right. I'm sure some men are very insecure about their relationships, and I'm sure some women are also. I mean, I don't know what the proportions are.
See, I always say, like, when I had like a female friend, obviously, like, she was getting like continuous phone calls off her boyfriend, and like he was like asking me for advice, but I didn't know what to say. All I could say to her was like, you need to leave him, but obviously she didn't listen to me. Obviously she listened to her boyfriend.
Well, I don't know whether that points to any insecurity in either direction, greater or less. I don't think that offers anything.
That's what I mean. It's just I don't know. I mean, I think like there are some men out there that need to give like their girlfriends like a bit of like space. It's like you know, I don't see why their girlfriend cannot go out with their male friends. I don't see what's wrong with that, because males and females can be friends.
Indeed. But of course you don't know the history of any particular relationship, and the male or the female may be aware that when this person was behaving in this way previously, they were having it off with somebody else. You don't know?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't know, but I just think like obviously like obviously the girl will be like, well, he's not really giving me any space. He's not like letting me breathe.
Well, that's a point of view, and that may well be what any member of the union is thinking. Well, I have no way of knowing. I don't know where you get your knowledge from, but I have no way of knowing what's going on in other people's relationships.
No, I mean that's what I'm saying. I mean I've seen it like on like I mean it has been documentary before, and that's how I probably have seen it before. I don't know.
All right.
But yeah, I mean I mean what would your view be? Would you say my view is like right, or would you say it's wrong?
I don't think it's either right or wrong. I don't think it's anything. It is your view, and it's right for that. Whether it is a correct assessment of every situation you've ever been in, that's a different point altogether. So I think it's almost impossible for me to say. But certainly what you say may be true in some relationships and definitely isn't true in others. So it's a bit difficult to say, isn't it? Well, it is for me. I think people's relationships are a mystery to us all. Other people's relationships are a mystery to us all.
That's the thing. I think obviously like I know it's that insecure, but obviously I think men don't like to be on their own. They don't like to be alone. They obviously need female company. That's what they need. That's what they feel.
Well, that's patently not true, because there are quite a lot of men that do enjoy being alone, and there are quite a lot of men who live with other men and don't want female company. So to make a sweeping statement usually means you're making a statement that isn't accurate.
I mean, I wouldn't say all, but I'd say on the whole, I don't know if that is true on the whole.
Well, if you make a statement about men, then clearly that statement will be right for some, wrong for others. And I don't know how we distinguish between them, if we can at all. Generalities rarely come awash with accuracy.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe scientists might believe me. Maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. That is part of all science, isn't it?
I don't know what that statement meant, but scientists will believe that which the evidence provides them.
Like statistics and that.
Statistics aren't evidence.
No, they can be opinions as well.
Well, they're just numbers. If you held a survey in this country of 1 million people, that means you've not surveyed the other 60-odd million.
No, that's the thing, and it is quite complex. This is the thing. It is quite complex when I'm like obviously having this topic. I mean, it's not like an accurate answer, if that makes sense.
Well, certainly there are. I don't think there are any generalities that can be used accurately about human behaviour.
That's the thing, but I mean, yeah, you can get females that can be like that as well, but you know what I mean. I think females can be like that as well.
Right. Have a good night, Ray. How do, Malcolm?
How do, yes. I didn't. When was the decision? What was the basis of the decision for you leaving, Alan? Was it your choice, or was it imposed on you?
There's no direct answer to that. The BBC have decided, as is their right, to have a national programme late at night on BBC Local Radio that goes across all the stations. I was no party to that. Had I wanted to present that programme, I quite rightly would have had to apply for the job, because it's a different job than presenting locally, because there'll be 40 people like me, well, perhaps not like me, but 40 people doing programmes up and down the country, and others as well, so there would have to be an application process, and at 74 years of age, I'm not about to apply for a job.
So is this decision open to challenge? Because this was tried a few years ago, wasn't it? When they had exactly the same proposal to, as my memory serves me right, to scrap the local component of local radio and replace it with possibly a London-based voice. What do you think?
I don't think the time you're referring to, and I've been here for a long time, I don't think there's ever been a plan to replace local radio with a London-based voice, as you describe it, accurately. There has in the past been the suggestion that we have fewer directly local programmes. Indeed, this programme we're engaged in now, broadcasts across 3 stations, so we're already there, as it were. So whether there was ever a plan to replace anything in BBC Local Radio with a national station, I don't think there was. However, you may be right, and your first question in that 2-question sentence was, is there any opportunity to challenge it? Well, it's the BBC. There is always an opportunity to challenge it. How successful such a challenge would be, I've no idea.
Right, okay. No, maybe we should start a campaign then to retain Beswick and your opposite numbers across the various stations.
No, that's entirely up to you.
Yeah.
Campaigns at the moment seem to be having little success. If you look at the doctors, the nurses and every beggar else that's campaigning at the moment, they're having very little success. Whether they would be such a success, I don't know. I think it's unlikely, but feel free. It's a free world.
Right, okay, moving on. I wanted to mention a few points that I've picked up about Ukraine. Apparently today, according to Al Jazeera, a billionaire who used to back Zelensky has been arrested. He was the one who sponsored Zelensky's when in his former job as a court jester or TV comedian. And now, on corruption grounds, that very man who promoted Zelensky is being arrested.
On corruption charges, I believe.
Yeah, corruption charges, yeah. So this is kind of odd, isn't it? That this, it's kind of, it's showing us that the nature of the regime that the West is supporting is one that came to power as a result of a man who is corrupt, heavily corrupt, so much so that he's been arrested by the Ukrainian secret police, or whatever they call them, FSB.
I don't know what they're called. But there's a huge presumption in that. Yes, it
But
may
if
well.
found guilty, yeah.
Not just that.
Sorry.
It may well be that he was involved in the, as you describe it, the creation, if you like, of the current government. But that's immaterial. The government is here. They have a job to do. And if that government believes that he, this billionaire, has been doing things corruptly, then they have an obligation to deal with it. And if they didn't deal with it, someone could make the equally valid challenge, well, the reason they're not dealing with it is because they're in his pocket, because he put them in post. So they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't.
Yeah, but the wider point is that Zelensky, I mean, this is something that was actually mentioned in the Pandora papers that was on the Guardian website. It was shown to me by one of my informed relatives. It was on the Guardian website, and it said that Zelensky himself had received $60 million that was in the British Virgin Islands, and I think it was from this same billionaire.
Well, if that is so, and I'm sure your relative is as good a resource as any other we get on this programme, if that is so, then eventually something will come to pass. I don't know what, but the people, our government and the American government and other Western governments aren't supporting Ukraine because of that little chap that wanders about in fatigues all over the place. They're doing it because they think Ukraine needs to be defended. And whether that's right or wrong politically is for others to decide. But they're not motivated by, well, he's a nice lad, he was quite funny when he was on the telly, so let's support him. It's about, we don't want the Ruskies, in their eyes, breaking borders and taking parts of the West. Now, the Russians say... if you shut up, you'll hear. And the Russians say it isn't part of the West, it's ours. But what I'm saying is the West aren't supporting him because the head of Ukraine at the moment, elected head, apparently, but democracy, who gives a stuff about that? I mean... Russia's a democracy, let's all have a laugh. Anyway, so he's the elected head of that country, he's the democratic leader of that country, and in the eyes of the West, rightly or wrongly, that country has been invaded, and they have decided, rightly or wrongly, to support him. But not him, but the country. So...
Well, it's a regime, isn't it? I mean, you don't give
they're
money.
all regimes.
I mean,
do you think Sunak's not a regime? They're all bloody regimes.
Yeah, I'll take your point now, but getting to the point. The point is that the Ukrainian regime, I would argue, I'll give a slightly different take to the one you've given. Not saying yours is totally wrong, although not far from it. But the point is that the regime isn't in many respects a democracy because he'd banned his predecessor Poroshenko had banned certain political parties. Now he's actually refused to take part in the election to the Duma or the whatever they call it, the Parliament. He's saying next year he won't hold an election to the presidency, so he doesn't want to put himself up to election. When the United
Kingdom was at war with the Germans, we didn't have an election either.
Yeah, so take your point there, but this is slightly different. We're supposedly supporting a quote democracy. That's the point. A democracy that runs away from elections.
Malcolm, if you're suggesting that the Americans shouldn't have supported us because we did away with elections, then frankly you'd be speaking German, and it would probably suit you because that's a bit nearer to Russia, and you like that. Do have a good night. How do Simon?
Hello, Alan.
Hello, Simon.
Just to pick up a point that last.
When you're picking up the point, will you come closer to the microphone of your phone so we can hear you properly?
Is that any better?
Not much. Are you on hands-free?
No, I'm not actually. Not tonight.
Right. Okay, well, let's see how we go. Go on.
Jacked it up. That guy who was on before, he's talking about BBC radio and people with accents. He'd rather have someone with northern accent on Manchester. But plenty of southern people live in northern England, though, aren't they? And Chris Evans, he's on a national station, and he's from the same place you used to live in, isn't he?
My
So,
dad,
you know,
my dad got Chris Evans his first lot of car insurance.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
when
incredible.
Chris Evans passed his test and got a car, my mum and Chris Evans' mum were mates, and Chris asked my dad how he gets car insurance. He said, "I'll take you to my broker," and drove him up to Winnick to get his first car
What
insurance.
car did he have? Can you remember?
I don't know. I didn't know him. My mum knew him. My brother knew him. His mum, my brother's age than mine.
Did he have red hair then? Much redder than it is now, presumably.
Much redder than it is now, yeah, but so did I.
Point I'm making, though, I mean, Connor Phillips does programme on this show sometimes.
Yeah, he
when
does.
You're on holiday.
Yeah, he does.
Northern Ireland. He does a programme from Northern Ireland. And you do programme from Wales now, aren't you?
I'm doing this programme from Wales, yes. But I think the chap earlier wasn't talking about accents. He was saying that there had been a plan previously. I don't know whether this is true or not, but he said there had been a plan previously to do away with late night radio on BBC Local Radio and instead have a programme from London. Well, that looks like that's going to come.
I think he's right. I think that is... Oh, sorry.
Well, that is about to come to pass sometime this year, although where the programme will come from, I've no idea. It could come from any of the 40 BBC local radio stations, but it'll be a network
I don't think
programme.
they've got their act together yet with that, do they? Because they were talking about introducing it in March, and we're in...
That was the original date. That was the original date, but I think it's a bigger job than they thought it was going to be. Who knows?
And I've just been listening to one of your older programmes in the bath, actually, because I've got this stereo wireless speaker now, and it's great. You can do everything wireless now. So some of the technology is quite good, some isn't, but we won't go into that. Anyway, on one of your older programmes, there was a guy going on about the licence thing, and he was whittering on about... why should people abroad, he was saying, listen to radio when we have to pay a licence fee? Well, you don't have to pay a licence fee for the radio, do you?
No, you don't.
So why is he worried then? Because I don't have to pay a licence fee to listen to BBC Sounds, and I love being able to listen to BBC Sounds when I'm in Turkey, and I was listening to your show in Turkey, 2 hours time difference, but it's still you live, and I could have rung you up from Turkey, because you get a free phone call.
We get people...
We do.
We get people. We've had them on from Australia, we've had them on from Spain, we've had them on from America, Canada, we've had them from all over the place.
So it isn't really a local radio station anymore, because you're broadcasting to the world, aren't you?
Well, that is a point, isn't it? We are.
Yeah, it is really. I mean, you transmit it in Yorkshire, isn't it? So, you know.
Yeah, by about a foot. but yeah,
and it's a
kind of the highest place.
Derbyshire. It's not in Greater Manchester, is it?
Well, no. And pretty soon,
but I remember...
local radio and all radio won't have a transmitter anyway.
Oh, true. But I remember doing a reservoir job when I live in Stalybridge, but I was doing a reservoir job in a place called Digley, which is just in Yorkshire. It's near Holme, which is near Holme first. And I used to get to the site cabin, and you were doing early morning radio then. Do you remember? It was about 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I used to do the breakfast programme, yeah.
Yeah, and you were having a go about this guy. You called him a cretin. Well, you call a lot of people cretins. But this was a guy.
Well, there's a lot of them about.
You were driving to work, and this guy cycled off pavement and nearly crashed into you, and he didn't have any lights on. And you told him, can't remember. I think the word cretin came in there somewhere.
Every chance.
I rang you up from the site cabin, and I got better reception of Radio Manchester in the site cabin there than I have anywhere in Britain, actually.
Well, yeah, but
it was fantastic.
If the aerial had fallen over, it probably landed on your bloody cabin. It was at home, Moss.
It probably was. It's blooming huge, that area, and it used to do telly, didn't it, when I was a kid?
I don't know.
Paul Moss used to broadcast BBC One for the whole of the north of England at the time on VHF Channel 2, and I used to pick it up in Stalybridge and Duckingfield, where we used to live at that time. Now we're in Stalybridge. But we used to have to get a cross aerial to get it. And ITV used to come from Winter Hill, so you needed a cross aerial for the BBC and a funny one for ITV. And then BBC Manchester came on Winter Hill VHF. So you had Stuart Hall on one, and you had John Burns from Leeds on the other one. You could get them four. And then we moved away from the area slightly, and you could only get Leeds then, even though we were in Greater Manchester, which was really annoying. Well, you got wrong news programme. Stuart Hall actually lived in Glossop then, so he couldn't get his own programme on his own telly.
Well, I got to tell you, my understanding of transmitters ended in about 1970 when I left, probably earlier than that, when I left the forces.
Well, there weren't so many then, were there?
No.
It was easy to know what you were getting, because I think Home Moss used to broadcast to the whole of the north of England. And it used to do BBC, and then I think Emley Moor, which collapsed in 1969, just after Yorkshire Television started in 68. The whole bloody lot came down because it got ice on the guy ropes, apparently, and the whole lot came down. I think it was February, about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the whole lot came down. And that's it. If you go to Yorkshire now, there's a great big tower, looks like a stretched lighthouse, called Emley Moor. That's the new mast, and that's been there ever since. They made it so blooming solid it wouldn't fall down. It used to be the tallest structure in the UK at one time. That thing.
Well, Simon, I got it. Whether it was the tallest or the highest, I'm not sure, but I know I haven't seen it, but I wouldn't recognise it if I had. As far as I'm concerned,
got a lift inside, and the view from the top apparently is magnificent.
Oh yeah, I've not seen it, so I clearly haven't been inside.
You have to get. It's near Huddersfield. You can't miss it. It's so huge. But anyway, not to worry.
I wasn't.
But it's a lovely view from the top.
Well, if ever the opportunity presents itself, who knows? I might do it. But I think
I'll buy you a cup of tea at top, or a coffee even.
Right, well, that would be nice. Have a good night, Simon. We're going to talk to Alex very shortly, and to Glenn, and to Lauren, and to you on 0800 218 2255. In the meantime, rather like the BBC and all those transmitters, it's all around us, but with Wet, 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 it's loud. Who had a hit with that, first of all? Somebody had a huge hit with it. 60s, 70s? Yeah, nobody cares. 0800 218 2255. If you wish to join us, feel free. I don't think Charles has enough already. No. How do Alex?
Hello, Alan. Firstly, just in answer to a question that you posted about 3 months ago, you had a friend who used to run restaurants at Skipple Creek in Polton Le Fyle, but you couldn't remember the name. It was Riverside View Restaurants.
No.
Although it's not been there for a long time.
No, I think it was called the River House. There was a Riverside one as well.
Mm. Ah, right. Oh, well, I didn't even know that. No,
yeah,
anyway, I need some serious advice and help, please.
Okay.
I got married 11 years ago, and when we were separated after 2 years, the solicitor said because there was no estate, I didn't need to take any action, and because there was no estate, so I just left it basically. And now time has gone on, 10 years has passed. I've found out, and I know for a fact, that the girl that I was married to remarried a year ago. But I've had no decree, no decree, absolute, no paperwork, no nothing. I phoned the solicitor when that was dealing with it at the time, when I found out that she'd remarried. Unfortunately, only to be told that he's now retired, and I'm trying to move on. I've got somebody else in the pipeline, and I'm worried that when push comes to shove, I might get told that I'm not actually in a position to be able to marry anyone. Can you give me any advice at all, please, on this?
Well, you say you never received any papers of decree anything.
No.
Did you have a lawyer acting for you rather than just a lawyer acting for your then wife?
Well, I didn't The lawyer told me that I didn't need to take any action, so I just left. I just left it.
Yeah, what's the question? What's the answer to the question? Did you have a lawyer acting for you?
Yes.
You did have a lawyer acting for you?
At the time, yes.
Then that firm should be able to supply you, even though he's retired, should be able to supply you. How long ago was it?
11. Well, it was 11 years ago.
Possibly.
But as I say, I never filed for divorce, and because I was told there was.
It doesn't matter whether you filed for it or not. The issue is whether divorce was granted. You're trying to find out whether you're free to marry again, and you .uk website, and then it'll offer you a load of things, but it'll also ask you what you want to do, what you want to know, and it will then tell you. There is a public record of divorces, and you can check it.
Oh, that's wonderful! That is fantastic to know that I can try to locate that information. It just seems this very strange situation to me, whereas I might whereas she's obviously remarried, right, and then I think, oh well, she's remarried, so surely I must be free to do whatever I like, and possibly end up in hot water myself.
Well, at the moment, you're in a position where you do not know that you are divorced, yes?
No, yes.
Right. Then, at the moment, you cannot legally answer the question, are you married? You cannot answer that question, no, legally.
Thank you.
So you need to get a copy to make sure. But it's fairly easy to do. But as I say, if you go onto the internet and type into the search engine gov.uk, that will take you to the government website, and that will explain somewhere in there how you can check divorce records.
Thank you.
All
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alan. Thank you. Bye-bye.
It's all right.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one. 0800 218 2255. If you wish to join us, you can. Pick up your phone, have your say. It's fairly easy. You can talk about absolutely anything, as has been demonstrated admirably already. And we're only getting on for halfway through. How do, Glenn?
Hello, mate. You mate, right?
I'm very well, thank you.
Well, these are, man. I've heard that Vladimir Putin has been urged by a Russian war leader to seize the perfect occasion and launch a nuclear attack on Ukraine. Is that right, Tom?
I have no idea what advice he's been given by his...
I saw it on my phone, was it?
Well,
what do you know?
I'll say what I was beginning to say earlier, and that is I've no idea what advice Vladimir Putin has had.
About a war leader? Wait a minute. What would happen if Russia dropped a nuclear bomb in Ukraine?
Well, it depends where he dropped it.
And you told me before you don't think Putin will start a nuclear war. Is that right, Tom?
It's correct that I told. It's correct that I told you that, and I still don't think he will.
But he's not saying he'll use nuclear, but he's threatening to him.
Well, I don't think he has threatened. I think any more than showing someone your knife is threatening that you're going to stab them.
But how long is this work going on for? Is Pete's going to sit down? Because there's no sign of ending this war, either. There's no sign of end to it.
Not yet.
But do you think eventually Putin will have peace talks?
I don't know. It's impossible to know. If he reaches a stage where he thinks he can agree to an outcome that will not injure his pride, I suspect he'll take it, but we may be a long, long way away from that.
Do you know, is there a nuclear war? Are you burned to death? Is a nuclear attack? Is it a very painful death for people who are experience it?
Well, we don't know what the ones that die feel on account of them being dead and not able to tell us. But what we do know is how a nuclear bomb explodes, and the epicenter, that's where the bomb drops, for want of a better expression, or where the centre of the power of the bomb is. At that point, anyone in that area won't feel a thing. They will be vaporised. They will be turned within seconds into smoke. So they won't feel a thing. And then the further out you go, the people that feel the worst with a bomb are the people that are injured. The thing about a nuclear bomb that's rather disconcerting is the pulse of energy goes outwards, and obviously, like ripples in a pond, as they go outwards, they get weaker and eventually get to zero. But the thing that's disconcerting about a nuclear bomb is, as it expands, it creates a vacuum. The heat burns all the oxygen and gases in the air and creates a vacuum. So at some point, seconds, not hours, seconds later, all that air comes rushing back in, and that causes damage too. So you get the blast, which, if you're in the epicentre of it, you're vaporised, and your injuries are diminishing until you get to the very extremes when you might just have a little burn, but that's 20 mile away. Or you then get the rush of air coming backwards at such a rate that it can knock buildings down. So it causes damage in two directions.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
That's horrible. That's a very threatening experience, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I've never experienced it, but yes, I think it may be.
We just hope to pray for God and that everything's going to be okay in the future. Have a good night, all you.
I'll do my best. 0800 218 2255. If we've frightened you witless, then my life has not been in vain. How do Lorraine?
Hi, are you okay?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah, I was just wanting to talk to you about. I was looking into getting into beekeeping recently. So a neighbour of mine, when I spoke to him about it, he said that he's actually got a few hives himself, and he's looking at selling some. So he said, he said, how many do you want? So I said, about 12, something like that. And so he brought us a little box out, and when I counted them up, there was 13 in there. So he said, that one's a freebie.
Very good.
Oh, I love that one.
I like that as well, yeah. It's silly enough for my tastes.
Yeah, I'd had a couple of these recently, and some of them had just killed me. So my wife, she'd asked me if I'd seen the dog bowl recently, and I said I didn't know he could.
I didn't know you even played cricket. Very good.
I don't think one. I thought this was one just for you. So he said, my wife says she wants a divorce. She says I'm obsessed with rugby. Such a shame we've been together for 10 seasons.
Oh yes, that I like.
Sorry, one last one for you.
Go on,
I'll
then.
leave you be. But, so, ever since I got a wheelchair, my wife's been really rude. She's been pushing me around and talking behind me back.
Yeah, right. That one's a bit dodgy, isn't it? Because some people.
A little bit. I apologise.
Lauren, that's all right. We'll gloss over that and hope nobody's hurt too much. Have a good night, Lauren. But the others were good. How do Bev?
Hello, Alan. Are you all right?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Just a couple of things, actually. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about the war. I'd just like to say that my dad didn't fight in the war, Second World War. He was a conscientious objector, which there were probably very few of, who actually stood for what they believed as a Christian man. He didn't fight in the war, but believe you me, he worked very, very hard on the land. And I suppose when you think about it, he didn't get away with it. He had to work very hard in the farms and doing lots of, like dirty jobs and that kind of thing. So I always think to myself, well, I sort of like, I'm proud of my dad with the fact that he stood up for what he believed. But he didn't get away with it easy because he worked very hard on the land, and there had to be still those kind of people around to do those kind of jobs. I don't know what you feel about that, but I'd be interested to say what you think.
I don't feel anything about it that's critical.
No.
I'd only say challenge one thing you said, and you didn't mean any harm by it.
No.
At the beginning, when you said you were proud of your dad because he stood for what he believed in, that's a privilege you're entitled to. I'm not trying to diminish it, but also many of those people that went to war died for something they believed in.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that.
So that's only the distinction I would draw. Conscientious objectors are, quite frankly, an important part of the compulsory military service, because they are evidence of the freedom, even against compulsion. And many of the particularly in the First World War, many of the conscientious objectors went to war, as it were, but refused to fight and wouldn't bear arms, and did extraordinary jobs like stretcher bearer and the like, which were extraordinarily courageous things to do. Others said by doing that, other conscientious objectors said by doing that, you're actually contributing to the war, so I won't even do that. I won't stitch the clothes of soldiers, sailors and airmen, of fighting people, because that's helping as well. I won't make bullets in the factory, that kind of thing. So various different levels of conscientious objector, but it, rather bizarrely, it's one of the freedoms that fighting for a democracy brings, if you like.
Yeah, I totally understand that, but I suppose there had to be. Obviously, my dad didn't talk greatly about it, which you would expect, you know. I know, obviously there had to be people like. There's always people even the women who had to work in the factories and stuff. There's always had to be people in the background that did other things that were still part of, like, the war. And you know, I didn't challenge my dad a lot about it, but you know, I'm proud of him for what he did, because he stood up for what he believed, and he worked damned hard, as far as you know, the stories that he told me that he did. So he contributed in a different way, and I'm still proud that he did what he did. So that's really, you know, that's my feeling, because there always had to be people, there always had to be other people around that did those kind of jobs.
It's quite strange. Donkeys years ago now. I don't even know when it was. In the big miners' strike, the last of the miners' strikes, when all those pits were closed. I made a programme for Radio 4 about the miners of a pit in Yorkshire called Houghton, Maine. And they were almost all the blokes we had in the programme were all children of miners. And they expected their children to become miners, because it was that kind of a town, you know? And they were talking about their parents, who would be the age of my parents, if you like, in the Second World War. They were miners. Some of them wanted to fight and weren't allowed to. They were Bevan boys. They were getting coal for the war effort, you know. And they were fit, strong young men, most of them, because mining requires that. You can't do it if you're not fit and strong. And one of them told the story of his father, who went to another town for some reason. I don't know what it was, visiting a relative, going to a football match, I have no idea. Went to another town in his best, you know, like we all had best clothes. I don't think we do that anymore. But he went his Sunday suit, exactly, yeah. So he went in his Sunday suit to another town, and a bloke spat on him.
Really? Wow.
And said, "Why aren't you in uniform? Why aren't you fighting?" And of course, it's too late then. The damage is done. He's already been spat on. And saying, well, that's because I'm a miner. And people even regarded, again, particularly in the First World War, apparently so, even regarded miners who were forced down the mines when really they wanted to fight as skiving off, which is ludicrous. Ludicrous.
Absolutely.
You know,
my uncle was Polish, and he was a miner, and from Barnsley, little Polish guy, and he was a miner, and what a character he was.
Well,
yeah.
You mentioned he was Barnsley. Well, Houghton, Maine, guess where that was? Barnsley.
Yes, Barnsley, yeah. He was a little Polish guy. I'll tell you what, though, he was the most amazing carpenter I've ever seen. He could make anything, from little wooden boxes to all sorts. He was a funny guy. And he always used to say to me when I was a kid, and my mum and dad, he used to say, the perfect breast always fits in a wine glass. I don't know why he used to say that. He always used to say, when we used to sit and you look at him, he just said to me, Mum, that wine glass is far too big. That it's got. He said it has to be a certain size, and that size is the size that fits in a wine glass.
Well, fortunately, wine glasses are bigger these days, so there's more
they're
chance.
A lot bigger than that. And can I just
Go on.
Can I just say, there's a great poem by Thomas Hardy. I don't know whether you know it. It's called "The Man He Killed," and it's only 3 or 4 verses long, but it's an amazing poem. Thomas Hardy's "The Man He Killed," and it's basically about, because I used to teach English, so it was a poem that we used to teach, and it's about 2 men, obviously men that would meet together but would never met in normal life. And it's about how they met in a pub, and saying, at one time those 2 people, as far as apart they would ever be, would have been friends at one time. It's a fabulous poem, and it's called "The Man He Killed" by Thomas Hardy.
I shall look it up, because it
Look it up, it's fabulous.
I will. My dad was a paratrooper in the war, and obviously was in a lot of different campaigns, as many were.
Yeah.
And back in the 60s, you might remember that bands or groups as we called them in those days, went to Hamburg. The Beatles were the best known ones, and my mother's nephew, a lad called John Bellringer, if you're still around, John, I'll do to you. Yeah. He was a drummer, and he was a drummer in a group, and they went to, I think it was Berlin or Hamburg, and they went, and he met a German girl, and they fell in love, and they eventually got married. They happened to get married in England, and the girl's uncle could speak hardly any English. My dad, who was in the Second World War, definitely couldn't speak any German. And they managed to sit down with each other, and they would have killed each other had they had the opportunity in the war. And they sat down and apparently sat in a corner together and chatted all night.
Wow, that's just absolutely that poem all round, because it's like I said, it's not a long poem, but we used to use it in the anthology. It was in the anthology when I was teaching, and it's just amazing. It's only a short thing, like four lines, I think, and four verses, but it's just about the fact that, they would that would never have happened years and years before. It's a fabulous poem. Thomas Hardy, "The Man He Killed," the man he killed. Fantastic poem. And it makes you realise, that if it wasn't for war, we wouldn't have had all this awfulness between different people and countries and things.
I know, it's the other way around, really, isn't it? It's not, if it wasn't for war, we wouldn't have these countries. It's more the other way around. If we didn't have all these countries, we wouldn't have war.
Exactly.
We wouldn't have any need for them.
Yeah. But it's a great poem, and look it up. It's fantastic, and it's a lot. And it's sort of brought it back to me, because obviously we used to use it as when we used to teach war poetry as well. Along with lots of other stuff. And I always used to like that poem, because I think it sort of brought you back down to think, well, actually, we're all human beings, and we've all got a lot of good things about us, and it's just war that brings the badness out in people, sadly.
Well, I mean, war is fought by young men to cover the mistakes of old men.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It was ever thus.
Thank you anyway.
Good on you.
Thank you for listening to me. Take
Have
care
a good
now.
night.
Bye-bye.
Fabulous, bye-bye. 0800 218 2255. We do get about a bit, don't we? We've got male, female insecurity, the licence fee, local radio changes, Putin, grey squirrel with a bit of red, Philip didn't kill Diana, and neither did the Queen, broadband, dodgy concrete, by God, there's been a lot of that, and beekeeping, well, that was a joke, a funny one, mind. Yes, I know, and then conscientious objectors in World War II. How do Les?
All right, Al. Just a couple of calls away, about 4 calls away, a fellow was talking about the tallest tower. It may have been the tallest tower in Britain. Can you remember the name of it?
No. regrettably.
That's all I wanted to call up. He said he was going to make a cup of coffee up there.
He was going to buy me a coffee, yeah. I think he seemed to say it was in Yorkshire somewhere, and I didn't write down the name of it, regrettably. Perhaps my team
He might call you back. He might call you back if he's listening.
All right, well, if he's listening and he does, great, I shall issue the name and then we can all go there.
Well, I'll be listening anyway.
A great big cup of tea party.
All right, sorry about that.
No, it's all right, it's not your fault.
I'm listening all the time and I just was interested in where it was.
Yeah. I think he said it used to be, so perhaps it wasn't. It isn't still, I don't know. Anyway, there we are. If he does ring back, then we'll have it.
It's still there, because he said he'd buy you the coffee.
Yeah, but no, I wasn't suggesting it wasn't still there. He said it used to be the tallest, and I think he
it won't
suggested.
Be now, no.
Yeah. Well, you don't know. It depends on what you mean by tallest. You see, if it's on the top of a hill, then is it the highest in the land? Or is it just the tallest building from base to top? Anyway, we're no further forward. Good on you, Les. Have a good night, mate. How do Peter?
It's the tallest building from base to top, and it's Emley Moor, he said, the guy.
Right. It's a good job somebody was paying attention.
And it's in West Yorkshire between, I think, Holmfirth and Denby Dale. And
Indeed,
I cycled past it. And I took my Jordanian friend there, and I've got a photograph of him on my wall, of him outside the tower.
Well, there we are. So, Emley Moor.
So there you are.
Excellent. Emley Moor Bartat.
And it used to be owned by NTL, and it's now owned by Aquiva. And they own Winter Hill as well.
Right.
There you go. That's about the extent of my knowledge of those two.
Well, National Transmitters Limited, is that what that was?
It's interesting, you were talking about the war earlier. My dad was at Dunkirk, and you were talking about the miners' strike, and during the miners' strike, do you remember we used to have the power cuts?
Yes.
My dad worked for the North Western Electricity Board in Tame Valley, it's in Greater Manchester now, but it was in Cheshire then, because Cheshire included Hyde, Stalybridge and Stockport, did it not? Up until 1974, I think.
Yeah, when they realigned the boundaries, yeah.
Yes. But somebody threatened to slash his tyres because he was having to switch the substations off at 10:30. Do you remember, after news at 10, the power went off to save power because they hadn't got enough coal, had they?
I think that was part of it, yes. Yeah.
Yes. And then I think Thatcher tried to stock up on coal, didn't she, later?
Well, she did. One of the reasons that the miners were defeated is because they quietly, if that's the right word, I don't know, but they built up huge stocks of coal at power stations.
That's right.
To give them the ability to withstand a long strike, which, of course, the miners had less ability to do because they lost earnings. And
wasn't there a breakaway miners group in Nottinghamshire?
Yeah, there was. There was the National Union of Miners.
That's right.
And then there was, I can't remember now, I think it was the Union of Miners. And they voted to go back to work and of course, were regarded by the National Union of Miners as traitors. But, that was their position. The Union of Mine Workers or something. Anyway,
something of that nature. There was a drama on BBC One, I think, last year called Sherwood, and that featured whoever it was, that section of miners, wasn't there? It was part of the drama. Did you see that at all?
I think I did. Yes,
yes.
I think I did.
It's about people, killing people with bow and arrows. Do you remember? And they had to go at a train driver in one episode, I recall. Yeah, it's a really good drama, that.
I mean, there were some terrible things went on.
Oh, I know. Yeah, and it destroyed families, didn't it?
Yeah, families were pitted against each other and all sorts, but there was some... one of the reasons, I reckon, and I'm not an historian, one of the reasons the miners lost was when two individuals alleged to have been miners threw a lump of concrete off a motorway bridge and killed
I remember
some.
that. Yes.
And killed some individuals who they thought were strike breakers.
And were they?
Well, I don't know enough about it, and I don't want to risk inaccuracy, but I do remember the furore that followed it, and the union leader at the time, Arthur Scargill, was asked if he had any apology for these 2 lives lost and these injuries, and he dodged it. He said, "Well, I condemn all loss of life in the strike. I condemn all the harm and damage in the strike." In that political way,
but he wouldn't comment on that.
He wouldn't comment on that specific incident. He bundled it all together.
And I'll tell you
said,
something funny here, Alan. I've slept in the same bed as Arthur Scargill, but not at the same time.
One would hope not.
This was in a bed and breakfast in Brighton, because they used to have the conference there, didn't they, at one time?
Yeah, well, they used to have them on a
was staying in a B&B just outside Brighton, near Eastbourne. Well, no, it was nearer Brighton. Then I cycled to Eastbourne over the... I don't know if you've ever been to the Seven Sisters Country Park down there. It's beautiful.
Have you?
And it goes past a lighthouse called Beachy Head, which is red and white. It was used in 2 episodes of The Prisoner. Do you remember that series?
I remember The Prisoner. I'm afraid I don't remember The Lighthouse.
It featured in 2 episodes, and I think it was Many Happy Returns and The Girl Who Was Deaf.
Too much detail for my taste.
Sorry.
Well, your boast was that you slept in the same bed, not at the same time.
It's not a boast. It just happened to be. The landlady told me. She said, Arthur Scargill was in that bed the other day. We did cheat, though, she said.
So you slept in the same bed as Arthur Scargill. Well, allow me to tell you that I have not slept in, but at least have laid down on the same bed that Charles I slept in when he was hiding from the Roundheads. So
where was that?
That was, I think it was called Carrick Castle in the Isle of Wight. And
the Isle of Wight. I've never been to the Isle of Wight. I've been to the Isle of Man. We were due to go to the Isle of Wight, but the sea was too rough, so the ferry was cancelled. So that was that, really.
Well, he got over there, and some years later, so also did I. Have a good night,
That's
Peter.
where they filmed the Ruth Rendell mysteries, wasn't it? With
no idea.
Yeah, I believe so. Anyway, what I was really coming on tonight to talk about was call centres. Have you ever had to authenticate a credit card?
I don't know what you mean.
Well, when you get a brand new one, I lost mine the other week, and they sent me a new one, and you have to activate it. Sorry, not authenticate it, activate it by ringing them up. And they said to me that before I get the card, I will get the new PIN number, because most banks let you keep the old PIN number, don't they? Even if you've had your card stolen or it's...
I can't speak for most banks, so carry on anyway.
I'm a member of 2, and one does
Well, let's just deal with the one that you did, because we could be here till Tuesday.
But when I rang them up, the call centre sound, and this happens a lot to me, I don't know if it happens to you. They sound like a Dalek when you ring them up, and you can't hear a word they're saying. And I've my computer's in for repair at the moment, so that's the only way I can contact them at the moment. And I said to this lady, I can't hear a word you're saying. Could you put me through to your British call centre so I've got half a chance of hearing you? It's nothing to do with them and where they are. If you can't hear in the 21st century a call, it's
how do you know where they
no
were?
Ornament. Yeah.
How do you know where they were?
You can tell.
How can you tell?
I know that this particular bank's call centre is in the Philippines, actually, because they've told me.
Tell them you're not really happy. I'll move banks. It's not hard.
Well, exactly. I think I probably will.
That's the way forward.
I can't believe that in this day and age...
Well, you do believe. You've just told me. You do believe.
Well,
what do you mean you can't believe? You do.
I can't understand in this day and age why communication is so bad.
Neither can
we've
I.
got all this digital technology. We've got WhatsApp. Why can't
we've got the list of what we've got 1,000 times, Peter. If you're not happy with it, fine. Sit on your own in the dark, and no one will ever bloody disturb you again. I'll do, Sean.
Hello, Alan. Can I talk to you about something serious?
By all means.
So basically, as a little kid, my dad was a very abusive man. He used to really hurt me, and he used to hit me and punch me and all that, and kick me.
Okay.
And he got arrested for it because he used to hurt my sisters as well, and I didn't like him. He was a bad person. But who wants a dad like that?
Well, nobody, but we don't get a choice, do we? Sadly, we don't get a choice of what kind of a parent we get.
Well, I'm glad that he died because he can't hurt me anymore. And I'm in a better place. Now he's gone.
Right.
And some dads are abusive. That's why they should be either should be dead or locked up. That's what they deserve.
Well, they certainly deserve some kind of investigation and maybe even punishment, and hopefully redress for their victims.
Well, I hope your dad was never abusive to you because it's not nice what people go through.
How do you come to terms with that now?
Well, I'm over it now because he's not alive, but I do think about it when I see other people's dads get they abuse their daughters. It does get to me a bit, because it's not fair on them.
Does it affect the way you behave to the people around you?
Sometimes, I get angry and punch out at them or hit out at them or spit.
And have you tried to find any way of not doing that?
I try and just don't think about it and then try and just keep calm.
And what about the times when you can't keep calm?
I just walk away and have a few minutes out.
Good to hear from you, Sean. Have a good night. How do David?
Hi, Alan. Good evening. I heard before that about you leaving before Christmas this year, and I just wanted to give you a call and say thank you very much for all the years that you've done watching radio. I started listening to you when I was 16 on Red Rose Radio, up in my bedroom. I remember telling my family about you and my friends that I'd heard this person and they should listen. And now I'm 56, and I'm sorry if I've I just want people to know the length of your experience and how long you've been doing this and the pleasure that you've given me and my friends over the years.
All right, well, if you were listening during the Red Rose days, you will have learnt then that I'm not over good at accepting compliments, but thanks for your call.
No, but that's why I said I'd be very quick. Bye now.
Right, have a good night. I'll do Jen.
Hi, you alright? How's it
I'm
going?
very well. Oh, very well, thank you.
Oh, good. All I thought I wanted to come on and talk about was about childcare. So I don't know if this is like a touchy subject or what.
It's okay.
But I find it a bit mind-boggling, to be honest. Obviously, childcare for parents, it's extortionate, isn't it? Obviously, people struggle to make it. Go on.
You mean professional childcare, putting your child in care while you go to work? Yeah.
Yeah, put them in a nursery or childminders or whatever. You know, it's like it's like having another mortgage, basically. You know, and obviously you put your child in care, and the people that care for your child doesn't reflect in their pay, essentially. You know, they have to go through all the safeguarding qualifications and medicine and whatever, and they get paid minimum wage. You know, I find it's just. I'm a nursing myself, so yeah.
It's a horrible circle. I mean, you actually, you know, I mean, the people in my industry are comparatively well paid, and I sometimes hear them say, you know, I'm almost working for nothing because of the amount. You know, I go out to work, and at the end of the month, I'm 500 quid better off for the month because of the money I've had to pay for childcare. And you just think, this is crackers. This is absolutely crackers.
Yeah. Obviously, there's that whole thing that's going on with the nurses at the moment, isn't it? But, I mean, there's so much emphasis on, children having a good child and whatever, because that'll affect them as an adult, as like the previous person has already been radio. And then obviously the pay that nurses get are just for the work that they have to do. You know, there's all sorts of different things that they have behind the scenes that they have to have qualifications for. And, you know, they have to go to the right safeguarding people or Senko or whatever. And I just find the government, I don't know. I don't even know how anyone would sort it out. But, yeah, it's...
Well, a number of governments have tried to ease it a little bit. And there's this thing, isn't there? I think it was David Cameron that brought it in. Every parent would be entitled to an element of childcare funding, so they get free sessions in a childcare unit or what have you. But everyone I talk to about it says it doesn't even touch the sides. It's just nothing like enough, you know.
Oh, well, I mean, there's this whole thing about what was it about the childcare that they were thinking of bringing it in, wraparound care, you know, for parents, because between the hours of 8 and 6, they'd want more wraparound care for schools and whatever, so parents could go out to work, and obviously that would come back into the economy, you know. But our school doesn't offer that care, so that makes it difficult for us, obviously, to go out to work. So we've been blinded by it since COVID, because I got made redundant, you know. So it's just mind-boggling, and
it's disturbing, really. I mean, I'm old enough to remember. I mean, I was a toddler, but I'm old enough to remember just after the Second World War when they were desperately short of manpower, and then in the 50s, when the economy was growing exponentially, there just weren't enough people to make it work, and so they wanted the women to go back to work. The women who'd kept the country going by working in factories and the like during the war, they wanted them to go back to work to keep up with the demand. And they had free childcare, they had free nurseries and all sorts of things. Companies had nurseries, most companies had a nursery. And you just think, well, right now we're desperately short of labour. So why hasn't that come back? Why aren't we once again providing free childcare for everyone that needs it? And then we suddenly read in the paper that we're lucky the school hasn't fallen in on our kids.
Yeah,
with all this
literally
concrete stuff.
Before they go back to school.
Yeah, but I mean, you just think, dear God. But I was talking to somebody the other day who said, believe it or not, Beswick, we're not far away from being a third world country. The roads are falling to pieces, the railways don't work, the lighting doesn't work, we're told we're going to run out of electricity every winter, the National Health Service isn't working, schools are falling to pieces, hospitals are starting to fall to pieces. There was a photograph on the news today of operating theatres with props holding the roof up. You know,
God.
And this person said, you know, we're going to be a third world country the way things are going. And you just think,
it's scary, isn't it? You know, I feel for our generation, you know, like my kids, because I think, well, you know, some of the stuff you read in the news, and you think it's terrifying, isn't it? And you think, well, what can I do? You know.
It's just hard. I mean, Margaret Thatcher wanted us to all be homeowners, and quite frankly, given a choice, I reckon, even when I was a kid, most people would have chosen it to own their own home rather than pay rent. But I mean, she's turned us all into homeowners, but all that's done is to take the responsibility of keeping us housed off the exchequer. So now we've all got to do it, out of our own pockets, which may sound like justice, but it does mean we end up, unless you're comfortably off, and I have to own up, but unless you're comfortably off, you can't afford to own your own home. I read an article this morning, I think it was in The Guardian, a 40-year mortgage. 40-year mortgage, for crying out loud. You leave school, you sign on the dotted line, when you retire, you're still bloody paying it. Dear God.
It's like, the inflation, when is it going to stop? Because obviously everything's going up. There has to be a point where it has to stop. I don't know. I don't know.
It's just crazy.
I'm not politically sort of I do my best to sort of understand things, but
it's not easy. It's almost impossible. And you make plans, I mean, they changed just recently. They changed the retirement age. And many women, lost. Now they didn't have it to lose, but they will now not get their pension for some time later than they would have expected to, which means there'll be tens of thousands of pounds out of pocket from what they were reasonably entitled to expect because the government changed the date. And quite frankly, they say, well, you have to plan. Well, what's the bloody point of planning? You can plan your retirement from the age of 20. But if when you get to 66 they change the rules, you couldn't have planned for that.
Yeah, what do you do then?
I mean, I'm about to retire. Sometime this year, I will retire. Now, don't get me wrong. I've got a good life. I've been well looked after for a long time. So it's not a problem. But you look at, you think, well, it's going to cost me that to live. It's going to cost me that to keep my property going. It's going to cost me that to have a nice motor car. I'm going to be fine. And then the next thing you know, you're spending an extra 200 quid a month on food and electricity, on power.
Extortionate.
Yeah, well, if you've got no money, that's 400 quid a month that's got to come from somewhere. Now, okay, for me, I just think, well, that's a bugger, and that's it, I carry on. And there are people as fortunate as me that think that's a bugger and carry on. But are people doing important jobs, working bloody hard, and obviously there are others not working quite so hard, including me, but there are people working bloody hard, and suddenly all their plans have gone to crap because they couldn't plan for this. Who knew?
Yeah.
And
that's all they want is time, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. We're talking now in a jesting way, but it's not funny, about the roofs falling in on schools. Do you think that's going to be a problem at Eton and Harrow? Do you think the kids who are due back at Eton this week, and you can't come in, the roof's not safe? Their biggest worry is whether the swimming pool's at the right temperature.
Yeah.
They spend more on winged collars than local schools spend on roofs. I mean, it's the world's balmy.
Yeah, it just seems sometimes like people are just a little bit out of touch with reality. They're all for themselves and not for everybody. They want the best for everybody because everybody wants to have a good life and.
But you hear politicians of every hue. I'm not talking about the lot in government now because the other lot were no bloody better. But you hear politicians say, I'm doing it for the country. Well, what is the country? It's not the bloody buildings. It's the people in it.
Yeah.
And if the people in the country are not looked after, then whatever you've done, you haven't looked after the country. You might have, the Times, the Times supplement might be flying off the shelves. The Hot 100 shares have got more and more value and all the rest of it. But if the people aren't comfortable, then you haven't succeeded in doing it for the country.
Well, that's it. And I suppose, like you say, at the moment, things just seem to be, I don't know, there seems to there's one thing after another, you know, and you just think sometimes, when's it going to stop?
Well,
I don't know.
we'll have to wait and see. I mean, there's going to be an election in 18 months, but what have you got to choose from?
Oh,
can you spot the difference between any of them?
do you know what? I'm a bit funny about politics because, like, sometimes I'm like, yes, it's all right to read the news. All the time I think it's just, sometimes I don't want to see it because it's another thing, you know, like.
Yeah, something else.
They're all the same.
We thought we'd got past it. COVID's sorted out. Oh, look, there's a new one coming. And all that's sorted. The electric price is coming down. Oh, thank God for that. But it's going to go up later on. Oh, thank heaven. Food prices have stopped. They're not increasing in prices as fast as they were. Oh, well, that's a relief. No, it's not. We're still paying double last year's. And then what do we find out? Oh, by the way, the roof's coming in. What? Get over it. Childcare costs. God almighty, if that's all we had to worry about.
I don't even. It's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, you hear parents, you know, in cafes and the like, talking to each other, and you just wonder sometimes, you know. I mean, as I say, it's rich from me. I'm one of the lucky ones, but
yeah, I mean,
but there's a lot more that aren't.
I sort of went back to work like part time, sort of like an agency sort of thing, and took my little girl with me, and I ended up having to say to them, I'm gonna have to leave. I'm gonna have to give it up because I owed them money, you know. And then obviously then it's like, well, what else do I do? Do I go to university? But then obviously it's like, well, how do you manage that then? Well, you know, because then you need a support network around you that would support you going that way. And it's.
I was talking to a bloke the other day. He's 63, and he took early retirement because he could afford to, because he had a good pension. And he took early retirement, and he's just now waiting for his state retirement to kick in, but he's all right, thank you very much. And he said, my wife and I had all these plans. We were going to go on the holidays that we've never been able to have. We wanted to go on a long, long cruise. We wanted to go to Antarctica, and that's about 25 grand you'll never see again. And I said, brilliant. And he said, it's not brilliant at all. We can't do it. Why not? Because we've got to look after the bloody grandchildren, so the mum and dad can go to work. And he was getting it off his chest, you know what I mean? He wasn't bitter about it, but he wanted to get that bitterness out of him. He was saying, we've got to look after the bloody grandchildren. And he wasn't saying, we're looking after our grandkids. He was saying, Jesus Christ, this isn't what I planned, you know.
Yeah, it's not what they had in mind, but...
No.
It's funny, isn't it? Because like, obviously society's changed over the years, because it used to be like, was it a quite tight-knit community that would obviously bring a family up together?
Yeah.
Now it's like you say, with all the pension stuff and retirement age, it's I don't.
Yeah. And we are disparate now, aren't we? We're spread out all over the place. Once again, I blame the motor car. I blame the motor car for everything, despite the fact I've got one. I blame the motor car for everything. Without the motor car, we'd all have to stay home. Without the motor car, we'd have to travel on the bus, and we'd have to talk to each other. And so we'd still have a community. Instead of having a conversation at the bus stop, we splash the buggers at the bus stop as we go passing our £20,000 ton of metal.
Everyone's just like glued to the phones.
Well, that's the other thing as well. Don't get me on about phones. We'll be here all bloody week. Good on you, Jen. Lovely to talk to you. We're going to talk to Gary, to William, to Edward, to Andy. We're also going to listen to Elvis. Not that one, this one. She has no voice. Where's he when you need him? I'll do Gary.
Hello, Alan.
Hello, Gary.
BBC got a something against Wigan Football Club.
Not that I'm aware of.
It's just that I like to go on the red. You know the red button. What used to be CFAS or teletext.
Go on. I've never used it, but go on.
I use it all the time. And I like to check out the local club, the local football club. And I've gone through League One, and on 4 or 5 occasions, the Wigan statistics don't make sense.
What do you mean they don't make sense? Go on.
Don't make sense. Don't make sense. Well, the last time I've looked today, he played 6, he's won 3, he's drawn 1 and he's lost 2. Points 2. It doesn't make sense that they should have 10 points.
What does it say on the league website?
No, they haven't looked on the league website. I was just looking on the BBC because the
Appreciate
BBC is. Pardon?
Well, I appreciate that, but I don't know whether the BBC simply print what they're what they're given by the league, or whether they compile their own statistics.
Well, I just, you know what I mean. I assume that the BBC would be an authentic place to look for information.
Well, they are authentic about the information, but whether it is the information that they've sat down and done the calculation, or whether they are reproducing the table issued by the league, I have no idea. But you can print an inaccuracy if you're quoting somebody and that somebody has told you something inaccurate. I don't know which they use.
On 4 occasions, stretching 3 weeks.
Well, I can't really say anything other than I don't know. I mean, I could add I don't care, but that'd be rude. But I don't know how the BBC compiles its statistics.
You don't care about inaccurate information.
I don't care about football. I don't give a stuff.
No, but it's still inaccurate information. It doesn't.
I'm not going to change my answer because it pisses you off.
Yeah, but it's still inaccurate information.
I say again, I'm not going to change my answer just because you don't like it. I don't care whether the statistics about football are right or wrong. I do care about whether it is the BBC error or whether they are producing the table that is protected by copyright and merely reproducing it. I don't know. If I knew, I would answer for you, but I don't.
Well, do you think it's very likely?
I haven't a clue. It would be a guess, and I'm not prepared to guess.
Why don't you get your computer like you used to do? And
I can't get my computer to tell me how the BBC compiles its statistics because it doesn't have that information. But again, it's football, so I don't care.
But it's not about football. It's about information.
Oh, right. Well, I'm wrong then, and yet I still don't care. What a shame. I don't give a stuff.
I thought people like you, journalists, were interested.
You don't know anybody like me. I am unique. I'm sorry?
You just avoid the point, don't you? It's like phoning the police.
Well, phone the police then. Phone the police, see if they can explain it. Get off, you garmless toot. How do, William?
Hello. He's about. I'll just turn this down. He's wound up, hasn't he?
No.
Hey?
No, I'm doing it.
All right. He's wound up. Hey, Alan, your premises at North Wales, do you do bed and breakfast?
What premises? Where I live?
Yeah. Ah.
No.
Not thought about it.
No.
You make a good host. Huh?
I doubt it.
Oh, sheep farming then, huh?
Well, that sounds a bit like work.
Bloody rubbish. Pardon? Hard work.
Well, you're asking questions. How can questions be rubbish? But that sounds like work, and I've no desire to work.
You're retiring. How are you going to adjust to a different lifestyle? Will you get bored?
I doubt it.
But you must have a backup plan when they finish.
No.
No, nothing, no. All right.
Well, I only work 6 hours a week.
Pardon?
I only work 6 hours a week. It's not like I'm going to change my life much.
Oh, but you enjoy it, don't you?
I do enjoy it, but there's all sorts of things. There's all sorts of things I enjoy that come to an end.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, you're 76 now, aren't you?
No.
Is it 76? 77?
No. No.
When were you born then?
1948.
Get calculator out.
1948.
I was born 43, so you're 75.
Not yet.
Oh, 74 then. Right.
Correct.
We're not to a year, are we? Huh?
Well, we are if we want to be right or wrong, but yeah, not much.
Well, time goes faster now, so enjoy it while we're all here, what we're all about. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So you're going to travel the world, are you? I'm not noting. I don't know what you're going to do. It's up to you, isn't it, what you do when you retire?
That's true.
Well, you're retired now, right? Like, hey, I was talking to a bloke last week. He said, I'm going to carry on working. If I don't carry on working, he's retired type. He said, I'll be bored to tears of what to do. That's how being pub all busy time, you know what I mean? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know what I mean? How it goes, you know, adjusting to a different situation. So, that's how it goes, Alan, you know what I mean? You retire and, you come to, how do you put it, well, not end of the road, but what to do with yourself. You're retired and in a situation where you don't know what to do. You've worked all your life, and, well, as I said, a situation, what do I do with my life now? Enjoy it, or just, I've not to say to that.
Well, there's nothing I can say on the basis of I don't know what the future holds. I don't care what it holds, it'll be fine, but I don't know what the future holds.
People are like, we worked all our life and wonder what they want to do when they finish, you know. Like me cousin wanted, I'm thinking of going back part-time, because we're fed up.
Well, I'm fairly sure that I won't be fed up on account of I don't really get fed up.
No, I never get the old blues. No, just keep carrying on and find something to do, don't you? Huh? Of course you do.
Well, some do, some don't.
Depends what frame of mind you're in. If you're happy-go-lucky, you don't bother, you just carry on. Yeah. Some people get the old blues and all that. I once talked to a bloke, he said to me, do you ever get despondent? I said, what do you mean despondent? I said, no, I don't. You know, despondent, like, sat on this form. I'm just passing by. He said to me, do you ever get despondent? I thought, what an unusual question, that like. It must have been,
some people do, some people don't, I suppose.
Some people are depressive, like, aren't they? Yeah. Understand them that way. Well, how it goes, Alan. Okay, so we're all about it now. We're live and kicking. Huh?
Well, indeed, we have that to our good. Good to hear from you, William. Have a good night. And for Gary the Goon's benefit, I've just looked it up, and neither the BBC nor the league table are inaccurate. Wigan Athletic. Let me read it to you, Gary, seeing as how you've not got the brains to read it for yourself, you garmless toop. But this is all the different elements. So 6, 3, 1, 2, 10, 7, 3, 2. Now that's the played, won, drawn, lost, something called F, don't know, Gels for, against, goal difference and points. And if you look at it, Wigan have won 3 games, and that would give them a specific number of points, considerably more than 2. But they've only got 2. And that's on the BBC website, because that is a reproduction of the league website. And the league website has a little note below, which as a Wigan supporter, Gary, you really ought to have known, you stupid prat. But Wigan have 8 points deducted. So instead of the 10 that you claimed, they only have 2, and they have 8 points deducted due to a breach of the EFL. I presume that's the England Football League, but you may think the F's for something else, but the EFL regulations. So that explains. It's not inaccurate, it's just that you're a prat. 0800 218 2255. How do, Edward?
How do? The tune you played a bit ago, did Elvis Costello write She?
I doubt it.
Because Charles Aznavour sang it, didn't it?
He did.
And it was the theme music from an RTV drama called The Seven Faces of Women, which which was on in the 70s, I think.
Right.
Do you remember that?
No.
Oh, not to worry. Anyway,
I wasn't much of a telly watcher at that time.
No, but you were talking a lot about telly the other week, weren't you?
It's the curse of this programme that I sometimes have to talk about things I know nothing about. She was written by Charles.
You were talking about the champions, and you said you'd interviewed Stuart Damon, was it?
Yeah.
And William Gaunt. I used to love the champions. It's
all right,
you can't get it on one of the things. I think it's in BritBox it's on. It's ITVX. ITVX it's on, that's what it's on. But it's really good.
Charles Aznavour wrote She with more than a little help from somebody called Herbert Kretzmer.
Right. I think it got to number 1, didn't it?
Don't know.
But sure it did. Anyway. Well, I'm not ringing about tonight. Have you ever tried to get a new driving licence at all?
I've just done so.
Have you?
Mm.
How did you get it? Did you have to fill in a form?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I got my last driving licence by filling in a form, and I lost it. And I rang them up this week, and they said... you can do it over the phone, that's fine. I got my card out and I paid. And they said, right, we'll post it off to you. So I put the phone down and then half an hour later, they rang me back. They said, oh, I'm sorry, we can't issue you with this licence. I said, why? They said, you put your county in the address. I said, well, everybody puts the county in the address. That is my address. Why is it wrong to put the county? No, we don't need that anymore. I said, well, I've never heard of that. Have you, Alan?
No, I just filled in the form and answered the questions they asked.
And they said, when we issued you the last licence, the person who did it didn't take your county out. I said, well, my county's part of my address, Derbyshire. You know, what's wrong with that? He said, well, they put it before the town or the village. I said, oh, well, that's not my fault, is it? He said, no, but because it's wrong, you have to go down to the post office. We'll have to refund you the money. You'll have to do it all again. So everybody should know that you don't need to put your county in your address anymore. When did that happen then?
I have no idea. I know that I went to do mine because you have to renew it every 3 years after the age of 70.
Well, I have to do that anyway, Alan, because I'm diabetic.
And so
I have to renew mine every 3 years, even though I'm nowhere near that age. I still have to do it.
And so I went on the website and filled in the form, and they said, you can't do it on here.
Really? That's interesting.
And so I wondered why.
I was going to do it on my computer, but my computer's in for repair at the moment, so I can't.
And I wondered why. And eventually I gathered that they needed a more up-to-date photograph.
Oh, right. Yes, you do need to do that, yes.
And you can't do it on the website. You have to do it on paper. And so I went and...
So do you have to go to the post office to do that?
I downloaded the correct form off the internet and completed it, answered all the questions that they asked, and sent it off, and 10 days later my new licence arrived. Now, whether my county is or is not on that licence, I haven't the faintest idea. I just filled in the questions on the form.
The last 2 licences I've had, and I have to apply every 3 years, and this one is in between because I've lost it.
Yeah, mine was in between because I moved house.
Oh, of course, yes, you moved from wherever, yeah. But you still have to go to the post office, he said, and collect, is it a D1 form, and fill that in now?
That is a driving licence application form. I think you can...
Yeah,
well, you just said
but I've only got
out.
to do that because I've included... They didn't take out the county when I last filled in a form. I thought, this is ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's the only
I've
way...
always lived in Derbyshire, or whoever, if you live in Cheshire, Lancashire, and even Greater Manchester's a county as such, isn't it?
Yes.
But most people would put their county as part of their address, wouldn't they?
I've no idea what most people do.
And they don't acknowledge counties anymore. When did that come in, I wonder?
I've no idea, but when you get the form, you'll have to put the correct information that they require on it, and even if it is their error, they need to have the correct information off you in order to make sure that the error is not repeated.
And it's a sort of electronic process now, so if it ain't right, they won't issue it, kind of thing. So everybody who's applying for a new licence, don't include the county, otherwise you won't get one.
Well, let's not say that. Let's say when you're applying for a driving licence, fill in the form accurately and only give them the information they ask for.
And what they don't ask for anymore is the county, apparently.
Well, rather than give them a list of things to remember not to put on, it's a lot easier to just say, answer the questions they ask.
As it is, yeah. Okay, yeah. But it is a weird one, that, isn't it? That everything I've ever filled in...
If a mistake has been made, then they need the right information in order to correct their wrong information.
But we're not using counties anymore for some reason. I'm not sure why. But
well, we might be, but there was something
because of the postcodes.
There was something that's possible. There was something you said earlier that may be a clue to the answer of the question you seek, and that is, you said the person who prepared your licence last time put the county before the address. And of course that would throw a spanner in the works, because if you lived in number 21 Smith Street, Warrington, Cheshire,
or Derbyshire, or wherever,
and you put Cheshire first, then when they go to fill it in the computer, because they'll do it on computer when it gets up there, when they go to put it in the computer, it won't match. So they'll have to
I've never written my address in that order ever.
You seem to have said to me during the course of this conversation. You said to me the person told you that when the licence was drawn up last time, the person at DVLA, you said, the person at DVLA put the county first. That's what you said. Talking to me
I think he put it first because there was nowhere for him to put it on that form, so he just put Cheshire.
I have no idea why a bloke in Swansea made a mistake. No idea at all, and neither have you. So why sit here and try and guess?
No, but it wasn't my mistake. It was theirs.
But they can't correct. Well,
yeah.
If they said you were 99 and you're only 83. And they wrote 99, the only way they could change that isn't by thinking, do you know, he sounds more like 83 to me. No, I think he's 87. No, it's 81. And I tell you what we'll do, we'll ask the bugger, how old are you? 83. Told you. Right, they need your information to get it right.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah. Okay. Okay,
right.
So I'll
have a good one. Indeed. How do Andy?
Morning, Al.
Morning.
So, you touched on the war before. It was 84 years ago today that the UK declared war on Germany.
Right.
I know, 3rd of September. Anyway. It's not long ago, is it, really, in the grand scheme of things?
Well, I wouldn't like to hold my breath that long, although quite a lot have done so.
Sad business, really. Anyway, I was just saying about that. People don't seem to not celebrate, commemorate the start of the war. It's the end, isn't it? But it's a bad business war.
The end's the thing we're pleased about. The beginning we're not so happy with.
Well, yeah. So, the junior doctors and the consultants going on strike on the same days, aren't they? I don't think it's right. And I think when the lady was speaking at just after 12 o'clock about the cost of living and the nursery thing, I think they're on good money, the doctors, aren't they? You know, we don't have to worry about childcare costs.
Is the issue that they're on good money, or is the issue that the money they're on is less than it was 10 years ago in real terms?
I think the pay increase, what they're asking for, is completely over the top.
Well, if that pay increase, I don't know what's right or wrong in this, because you've only got two sets of people who are adamant they're right, but if the pay increase they're asking for would bring the wages to the place where it would be had they not had cuts all the way along, or less than inflation increases, then all they're saying is just give us the money you used to give us 10 years ago and we'll be fine.
But why didn't they chirp up years ago about it?
Well,
why are they just now? Why are they getting together with juniors and
because do you want an answer? Because if somebody takes 2% off you, you think, oh shit, I've lost 2%. Ah, well, I'm on good money, what the hell? And then the next year they take another 2, and the next year they take another 2, and in 10 years' time, your wages are now worth 20% less, a fifth less than they were when they took the first 2%. And at that point, you suddenly think, hang on a minute, we're getting bloody shafted here.
But why has it took 10 years? Surely they must have had... I don't know the ins and outs of it, but surely they must have had some kind of pay increase over the years.
Indeed they have. And again, they argue, and I've not heard the government say that's not true, they argue every pay increase we've had for the past amount of time, I can't remember the figure, I picked 10 years out of the air, but for the past amount of time, every time we've had a pay increase, it has been less than inflation.
Well,
and so our money buys less than it did before the pay increase. And eventually, you have to say, oh, up with this I will not put.
Yeah, I understand what they're going, but I think the pay demands are over the top, and the way the junior doctors and the consultants are going to go out on strike on one day. I mean, if you're waiting for an operation, and you're on that waiting list on that particular day, you get struck off that waiting list, and you have to go back on it, and you can wait years more, or 8 months more. And they've got a duty of care towards...
Well, the government has a duty of care towards the nation.
Yeah.
And we find out today that people can no longer afford to eat in some parts of the country. They can't afford to pay their mortgages because the mortgage rate has gone up massively. They can't afford public transport because it costs a bloody fortune, and that's gone haywire because they privatised it. The water companies are pumping crap into the rivers and the seas because they don't want to spend any money, and someone somewhere is the constant in that, and someone might say that constant isn't the doctors or the train workers or the public service people or the schools, which incidentally are falling down, it would seem, and the doctors and nurses in the hospitals. No, the constant is the government. So which one's wrong?
Proactive.
What do you mean proactive?
The teachers a pay increase and they've accepted it. The nurses have had a pay increase and accepted it.
Well, in both cases, neither of those organisations accepted it until the government decided they would improve the offer sufficiently for them to say, no, we'll go back to work. We're not entirely happy, but we'll go back to work. And the doctors haven't got to that place yet.
But the doctors are still on good money. But it's not just about that. It's the fact that the junior doctors and the consultants are going to go on strike on the very same day for a few goals. And if you're relying on the NHS for that, you could fall off your ladder, or you could have a car
What do the
crash.
letter stands for? What do the letter stands for? People talk a lot about the NHS. What does it stand for? Do you know?
The National Health Service.
Who provides the National Health Service? No, they don't.
And the government pay for it.
No, it isn't, Anne.
We pay.
No, who provides it? Who makes the rules?
Civil servants.
No.
The
civil servants. No. If the doctors made the rules, they'd have the pay rise.
Right.
Who makes the rules that operate the health service?
Probably the managers of the hospitals. Then.
No, the managers have bosses. Who are those bosses?
The government.
Excellent. The government. The government has the responsibility to get you and you and you your operation when you need it. All the other things, the civil servants, the doctors, the nurses, the hospitals, the drug companies, all of them are employed by the government to fulfil their obligation to you. And right now, that obligation is not being fulfilled.
Well, the government are pumping money into it. Do you not think it's a case of the medication and the advances in medical... Well, you know, they're keeping all alive, aren't we? So maybe the NHS isn't fit for it. It needs overhauling, and I don't think anyone's got the bollocks to do it, have they? Any government, Tony Blair,
maybe you're right.
David Cameron.
Well, okay, you make a very good point. They haven't got the bollocks, in your words, to alter it so that it does what it's actually meant to do. So who are you going to blame for that? The nurses, the doctors, the people with the dodgy concrete? Who are you going to blame?
I just think we need to. I think the doctors need to take a step back and think about what they're doing.
Right.
I think the NHS
They know what they're doing.
Said and done,
They know what they're doing. They're saying, if you don't give us this money, we'll piss off to Australia. And then what will you do?
Well, they get trained in this country and they go off Canada or Australia anyway, don't they? So
no,
we're paying.
No,
they should stay for at least. I don't know.
Of course they should. Listen, they train for 12 years. Why the hell should they want decent money? Have a good night, Andy. How do Stephen?
Hello, Alan.
Hello, Stephen.
Regards to that song that it was called The Trogs, 1967.
My word, yeah. The Trogs.
I was one then.
You were one, but you remember it well.
Yeah.
I was considering more than one and don't remember it.
To be honest with you, I was just going to... You've already answered the question, really. It was regarding Latex, Wigan Athletic, the 8 points...
oh, yeah, Mr.
You know,
Mr. I'm a Wigan supporter, but know sod all about it. Yeah,
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, it's like Wigan. It's divided between rugby and football, and they hate each other anyway. You know, my dad's like you. He's into rugby, but
right.
He hates football. Well, he hates Latics anyway.
I'm not a fan of football, I must admit, but
no, I know that.
I have been to a Latics game a long time ago.
Well, it wasn't.
Well, no, it was actually at Preston North End, and they at that time they were in the same league. I think they were still called leagues then. They were in the same league, and so it was a bit of an eagle match, you know, Preston versus Wigan.
Yeah,
and I was still at Red Rose at the time, and it was a bit of a party atmosphere, and I was asked to kick off the game, you know, to take the first kick of the game.
Yeah.
So I had to go out there in civvies, because there was neither of the kits I could wear, because that would have been less than partial. And so I had to go out, kick the ball, and say, I now declare this game underway. Kick the ball, and the referee blows the whistle, because it's a foul kick. And I went, and they started the game again. And I was back home quarter of an hour later. I didn't even stay and watch. But there you are. But Wigan versus Preston, I remember it well.
Well, my dad just said they're all, them footballers, he said they're overpaid actors. You know, he says as soon as they get touched, they fall over, you know. Yeah. Rugby says they bounce back, you know.
Well, we have seen, I mean, maybe it's just me, but I've watched some of the women's football. And quite frankly...
Yeah.
They, you know, we men think women are not as strong as us, but they seem to survive getting bashed bashed in the ribs by an opponent to get them off the ball legally. Whereas blokes on £1 million an hour or whatever it is, as you say, suggest they rile about on the floor thinking, he's hurt me, sir, he's hurt me. Yeah. And they have this expression. It's an expression I don't understand, and they use it in rugby as well. So they won a penalty. No, they didn't win a penalty. You win a game.
No.
You don't win a penalty. That's not an achievement. I just think it's stupid.
No. Anyway, they lost again today, Athletic, so...
Did they? Oh, that'll cheer Gary up, who was on earlier, won't it?
I know, yeah. I know. Well,
are they going to come back? I mean, they only sort of succeeded, didn't they? Because Dave Whelan suddenly decided, right, I'm putting my money in.
It's been upside down that for a while, you know, this financial thing they've got going on, you know, so... I mean, they beat Bolton 4-0 2 weeks ago, but then I don't know, it's unstable, you know. It's all unstable, all of it. You know, they seem to be, financially, they seem to be getting sorted now anyway, but they'll have to start winning games as well.
But the whole thing about football is I mean, it's happening in rugby. I mean, the team, if I was a supporter, I wouldn't really call myself that, but my home team, Warrington, I mean, they're owned by a bloke. And to be fair, he's cracking. He puts his money in. He never complains about it and all that. And I mean, he goes to every game, and you know, he flies the managers out, the coaches. You know, he's very much involved in it. But he's been a Warrington fan all his life, and now he's very wealthy and puts his money in. And good on him. You know, but it still means that Warrington. But should it be that? You know, should it be that? You know, like the two lads in Wrexham who were getting plaudits to the roof, and in the nature of the game, good luck to them. But should it be that two film stars from Hollywood are owning a football ground or a football team in Wales? It don't make sense to me, you know.
No, it doesn't.
But that's how it's gone. It's not going to stop, is it?
No, it's not, to be honest with you, I think that's an unfair rule to penalise the actual club with the 8 points when really the person paying the wages is the one who should be being penalised. You know?
But it's always the club, isn't it? It's the club that's you know, that's the entity. They're merely the people with the chequebook. You know, the club is the entity. The rules are there, and it's the club. Whatever's gone on, I don't know what's gone on at Wigan. But let's say some other club, the Allan Beswick United. If the Allan Beswick United pays somebody backhanders, if that's what's happening, or whatever, it's Allan Beswick United that's doing that. Not, you know, they have to obey the club rules, and if the club rules are broken by the representatives of the club, then the club carries the can.
That's it. Yeah.
It was ever thus. It was ever thus. If there was an Allan Beswick United, I'd sell it tomorrow. but if I owned a football club, it's that bad, no bugger would buy it. Have a good night, Stephen. Ta-da, mate. How do, Mera?
Hello.
Hello, Mera.
Hello, Alan. I must apologise because I'm not going to give you a hard time, or I don't have to think you like an aggressive face.
That's all right. I don't mind not getting a hard time any more than I mind getting one.
I wanted to say thank you.
Oh dear.
I know. Sorry about that. Because you've got my other half a lot of pleasure over the years.
Right.
And I just want to say thank you for that.
All right. Well, you have done.
Mr. Beswick.
All right.
I find you quite annoying, but also lovable.
Well, I prefer the annoying, but you know, lovable's a good second best.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, I've been sat in Chorley Cricket Club watching a bit of cricket there. Amazing. And honestly, you've kept the person that I love very happy for a long time. That sounds really weird, doesn't it?
Well, you know, I wasn't going to say.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. What do you think of this hundreds? Have you watched any of it? This cricket hundreds?
Oh, it's all very pink. There's a lot of pink and not recently, but I have seen it. Yeah. Oh,
it's quite colourful, isn't it? But it's
very colourful, and they're trying to make cricket cool, which it is, frankly. But yeah, I don't know.
It's a bit weird. It's a bit tip it and run,
weird.
Isn't it? Mm?
Yeah. Indeed.
I mean, am I right? Do they not change? Do the bowlers not change ends? No, you know how in every cricket match I've ever watched or even taken part in, they bowl from one end and then they bowl from the other end and then they bowl from... And I'm sure in the hundreds they always bowl from the same end.
It's just rude, frankly.
They won't do it now, they think.
Alan, are you a batter or a bowler? Are you a batter or a bowler?
I'm crap at everything. At school, but because I was crap, I was always put behind the wickets because they thought, well, if nothing else, we can get him bruised. So no,
rude. Again, rude.
Indeed, I once caught in the same match, a charity match. I once caught out a fella that it's a big skyy one, and I caught that out. A fellow broadcaster from Radio Lancashire. I was at Red Rose at the time, and in the same game, I bowled out somebody, and because I was one of the sort of celebs, if you like, of the team. So I
can see that.
So I bowled out one bloke who, like me, had no idea what was going on. But I also, to my credit, bowled out the county player. They had a county player, and of course,
sweet child of mine.
but you see, when you get as good as those guys are, they look at the bowler as he's coming in with the ball, and the way he's holding the ball, they know where that ball's going.
No,
and they're ready.
I'll be terrified.
Well, indeed. But he'd no idea where the ball I was going to bowl was going, because quite frankly, neither had I. So he can't have done. So I was just turning my arm over. It honestly, if it had gone any slower, it'd have had to roll. And he took this almighty waft at it, and it just about dislodged the bail, and he had to go. And the look he gave me, God almighty, it would have stopped clocks. And I'd done nothing. I mean, every other one was all round the ground, but that one. And he thought, I've got the measure of him. I did buggery because I hadn't. And it was just this sort of, you could hear the ball just sort of, oh, God, are we going to get to the other end eventually? Honestly, it was so bad.
Yeah, indeed.
And it must have hit something. When it hit the floor, there must have been a pebble or something. It hit that. And turned like Shane Warne had pulled it and hit the wicket.
Yeah.
And this
have you had therapy about this? I mean, have you had therapy about this? There's cricket therapy available. There really is.
I've still not recovered. And I caught one fella out. But I played in another charity game with Fred Truman. And Fred Truman.
Oh wow!
No, he was. I don't mean this in an offensive way, but he was a big, fat, unfit lad then, and played most of the game. And played most of the game with a pipe in his mouth. In a charity game, a pipe.
Wow!
Yeah.
Whoa!
And he turned his arm over without having a run or anything, and he just went like that with his arm, and it was like it'd been shot out of a gun. Because we were all duffers. And it was just whizzing past. Bloody hell. And then somebody else hit one. And it went up into the snow area. And it's coming back down. And one of my colleagues from Red Rose Radio ran and got underneath it and caught it. And Fred said, I was stood near him. And Fred said, a professional wouldn't have got that. I said, what do you mean? He said, have a look at him. And it split the webbing between his fingers. It was damaged. His hand was damaged. And he said, a professional wouldn't have got that. Very funny. But yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
This job has its useless privileges.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. Alan, my family are actually from Trinidad, so I am part of the old Caribbean football. Sorry, cricket.
Yes.
kind of got me nervous then.
It was a religion there for a while, but didn't basketball take over?
Oh, I don't know. There's a lot of tall people out there in the world.
Well, there is that. Too many, says a 5'8" bloke. Have a good night, mate. Lovely to talk to you, and keep going to Charlie Cricket Club. I'll do Sam.
Hi, Alan. Do you consider cricket as a sport?
I'm sorry?
Do you consider cricket as a sport?
Well, by general definition, it's a sport. I'm not fussed what we call it, but that's generally decided to be a sport. Why do you not?
Personally, not. But I do.
What do you think it is then? What do you think it is if it's not a sport?
Personally.
We seem to have lost you, Sam. Oh, can't hear him. Maybe you can't hear me. I don't know. Anyway, Sam, disappeared. How do Andrew?
Oh, hi, Alan. I've just been listening to the last few minutes about cricket. There's a fantastic Dad's Army episode. I don't know if you've seen it. And the home guard play the Wardens in a match. And I think it was on last Saturday night on BBC Two. And it was hilarious, absolutely brilliant. And Fred Truman was in it, actually.
Was he?
Yeah, he bowls. He doesn't play himself. He just plays another bowl. But he bowls for the home guard.
Right.
Sorry, the Wardens. And Hodges, the chief warden, thinks it's his secret weapon. And he bowls brilliantly for the first few overs, and then his shoulder goes.
Oh dear.
And and he says, "That's right. I'm off." So, but while he was bowled, if he lose the ball, the warden's bat, and it goes missing, and he can't find this ball anywhere. So if he clock up like 80 runs, well, the ball goes missing. And then Joe Walker has a spare one in his pocket, so he gives them that. So, but the home guard, they win in the end anyway.
Good.
And I think Private Godfrey gets the winning runs.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah. But in terms of the quick cricket, T20 and all that, the 100, I'm not so keen, really.
Really not?
I mean, not really. I don't know. I've never really watched it, but I did enjoy the Ashes this summer. I watched it when I could with me dad. Obviously, you can't watch the whole thing unless you've got time on your hands. But I really enjoyed it. A mate of mine's
going on the tour. You know, when they go over next time.
Yeah,
and his two sons are going on the tour, so they go to Australia. And follow them round. What will they have? 5 games or something? So they go to 5 different Australian cities, and they can't stop bloody talking about it. He's all right.
It's not for like 2.5 years now. I don't know why that is, but I don't know if you do. But
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Well, haven't they got? Oh no, that's rugby. I was thinking isn't there a World Cup somewhere along the line, but that's rugby.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know why I ever talk about sport. I know so little about any of it.
Yeah. But in terms of the Ashes, I'm certain they would have won at Old Trafford. But for the blinking weather, it wasn't to be.
That's the nature of the game, though, isn't it? It's weird.
Yeah, and I really thought. But I was checking the forecast a few days ahead, and when there was no play at the end on the final day, I thought, oh, bloody hell, it was just a waste of time, really, if you like it or not. But still, it was a thrilling series, I thought, and
There used to be, I can't remember his name now. He used to be the England wicket keeper, but then he got a job as a bookmaker with a bookmaker.
Oh right,
I can't remember his name. Fairly elderly guy, and I interviewed him once, long time ago, and I was asking him about. It was something about cricket and money rather than just the game, and he said, when you're in the dressing room, cricket players talk about 2 things constantly: the weather and the odds.
Right. Oh, crikey.
All the time. Evans, was there somebody called Godfrey Evans?
I don't know. It's probably way before my time.
Yeah. Well, it'd been a long time since he'd played. But he said the two things they talk about, the professional cricketers in the dressing room, is the weather, because it affects the game, and the odds, because it affects their bet.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I'm always baffled why extremely wealthy people need to gamble. I mean, you get footballers doing it, and I just don't get it. It's weird. But, yeah, but there you go. Anyway, thanks, Alan.
It's all right, and it was Godfrey Evans. Just look, Thomas Godfrey Evans, CBE, was an English cricketer who played for Kent and England, and arguably the best wicket keeper ever in some people's eyes. There you are. You learn as you go. But as I say, eventually was a representative of a bookmaker, which is fine. I never saw him play. The 60s was, I suppose, the last time. But there you are. Isn't it weird? What an evening we have had. Good heavens. And we lost Sam. I don't know why we lost Sam. Maybe because he deserved it. Who can tell in these worlds of ours? Beaky. Ta-da.
BBC News at 1 o'clock. This is Matthew Carter. Plans for a permanent memorial to Queen Elizabeth II are to be unveiled in 2026 to mark what would have been her 100th birthday. The government says it wants to commission a fitting tribute to her life of service. An independent body has been set up to come up with suggestions, as our royal correspondent Daniela Ralph reports.
The Queen Elizabeth Memorial Committee has the job of finding the best way to remember Britain's longest reigning monarch. Queen Elizabeth's former Private Secretary Lord Janvrin will chair the committee, supported by the government and the royal household. They will consult experts, the royal family and the public to commission a permanent memorial and a national legacy programme in honour of the late Queen's dedication to public service. Lord Janvrin says capturing her extraordinary contribution to the nation will be a unique challenge.
The Home Secretary has asked the police watchdog to investigate whether activism and impartiality among forces is affecting officers' duties. Suella Braverman says there's been an unacceptable rise in officers taking sides on political issues. Labour said she was commissioning reports into her own political obsessions. David Spencer is a former police officer, now with the Conservative think tank Policy Exchange. He says the move should be welcomed.
Police officers have huge powers. They can take our liberty away, they can force entry to our home, they can even take our children into protective custody, and they can do all of that without a court order. So the perception that those decisions might be influenced by a partisan political view really has the potential to be hugely damaging.
The British Museum is appointing the former head of the Victoria and Albert Museum as its interim director. Sir Mark Jones will replace Hartwig Fischer, who resigned last week after it was revealed that an estimated 2,000 artefacts had been stolen, damaged or were missing. More than 70,000 people attending the famous Burning Man festival in the US state of Nevada have been warned to conserve their food and water after torrential rain turned it into a mud bath. Dangerous driving conditions in the Black Rock Desert have prompted a ban on people leaving the site. Tennis, and there were mixed fortunes for Britain's hopefuls at the US Open. Jack Draper beat Michael Mmoh of the United States in 4 sets, but the defending champion, Spain's Carlos Alcaraz, saw off Dan Evans, and Britain's number 1 Cameron Norrie lost in straight sets to Italy's Matteo Arnaldi. Norrie said he underperformed.
I was a bit disappointed with how I approached the match tactically, and I wasn't really clear about what I wanted to try to do, and I wasn't really making the points long enough and trying to play on my terms. It was a lot up to him, so he credits him on that, though.
Britain's top women's player, Katie Boulter, is currently taking on Peyton Stearns of the United States, aiming to make it through to the 4th round at Flushing Meadows for the first time. And a short time ago, Stearns led the first set 4-3. More from me in an hour's time, but that is the BBC News. The time now is 3 minutes past 1.